Good evening, Facebook, YouTube, X. I'm Power 5 meteorologist Katie McGraw, and we are tracking some strong and severe thunderstorms. We've got a little trifecta here ongoing across Northeast Ohio. So these storms are going to be affecting areas from Cleveland through the islands, Akron, up into our north and eastern communities over the next few hours. So my whole point here is to just keep an eye on them. While these aren't the worst storms Northeast Ohio has ever seen, they are packing a punch in a variety of ways, including tons of heavy rain. We had gully washers yesterday, gully washers today, and they've increased a lot in terms of intensity and coverage over just the last hour. So please be sure to put in any of your questions into the chat in the comments so that I can see them and hopefully answer them for you. But for now, what we're going to be talking about is really just the radar analysis of these different storms that we have ongoing. So we do currently have 3 severe thunderstorm warnings that have been issued from the National Weather Service in Cleveland. Most of them are for winds up to about 60 miles per hour. So looking at each one of them, if we zoom in, we'll go to the one closest to downtown Cleveland first. So this is just south of Westlake. You have from North Olmsted to about Berea. Our sports anchor, Mason Horodisky, was at Berea this evening, and there was a concern about the threat for thunderstorms, but thankfully it was dry and just really hot and steamy, because for us, even if there's not a severe thunderstorm warning, I mean, anyone out there right now with all of this lightning, you don't want to be sitting outside. These storms are lit up like a Christmas tree. We have hundreds of lightning strikes. So I'm going to turn off the lightning for the most part. I just want to show you right now. Let's zoom out and show you all of the storms that we have. I mean, almost 2,000, over 2,000 lightning strikes. The worst of the storms right now, basically extending from Barberton to Cleveland and then up to about Lake Erie through the islands. And we still have the potential for some storms farther to the west as well. We're going to be watching this line of storms. Now, you see that there are severe thunderstorm watches in effect out to the west here. Majority of the severe storms now into Michigan. The southern flank that would be making its way into Northeast Ohio in the next few hours is already starting to weaken. But we have rounds of showers and storms is kind of the name of the game. So I am going to turn off, as I mentioned, the lightning. Just know that it's lightning, and any storm is dangerous when there's lightning present. So we'll turn it off. There we go. And we'll dive into each one of these storms and why they have been issued. So this first warning that we have for portions of Lorain, Cuyahoga, Medina County, it's all for the winds of 60 miles per hour. Now this is really close to the radar site, but basically right here is an area of some stronger winds where you could see wind gusts of 50 to 60 miles per hour. Let's see the hail. There's the possibility of some hail too. So the worst of the hail between North Ridgeville and also North Olmsted. And then of course the rain is intense too. Torrential downpours. I mean, if you're driving along, it can temporarily cause huge issues with visibility, ponding on the roadways as well. We'll go back to reflectivity. Let's check out another storm. Ooh, these are stronger down to the south, stronger than that Parma storm in Berea. So from Litchfield all the way down into Spencer, that's where we have, again, tons of heavy rain, but it looks like we're seeing some stronger winds here too. So those spikes of green right here from Belden just to around Litchfield, probably getting some hail there too. We'll flip over to our Barron button. Yep. Same area. So the reason I knew that is because there's a little bit of red mix in there, not enough to signal tornado threat, but a little bit of rotation allowing for some hail. And then also there's some hail showing up around the Spencer and Huntington areas. And again, the 60-mile-per-hour wind threat is here too. And so there is enough wind to cause some damage. The last severe thunderstorm warning is this one, and this is for, let me get my bearings here. We're looking at southern Erie, portions of Huron, and portions of Lorain. And we just got a new warning for Summit. So basically every thunderstorm that we have out there is now strong enough to cause some damage, mainly with those damaging winds. But there are these little pockets where you're likely seeing some hail develop as well. So this is our latest severe thunderstorm warning. And it includes that south and eastern section of Medina County, that's where it's at its worst right now. It includes a huge chunk of Summit as well, from Akron all the way down through Greene, even the most northern section of Stark County. So we have 4 severe thunderstorm warnings. I mean, and it happened fast. If we go back on the radar just 1 hour, this is what it looked like at 6:42. Once we started to get 1 severe thunderstorm warning, pop, 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 and we'll likely continue to have this threat for strong and severe storms for a few more hours, honestly. So they are gradually moving to the east, but man, they are moving slow. And it looks like we did get an expansion just to the north here of that severe thunderstorm warning. So that is into Michigan. That's associated with a line of storms. These are developing out ahead of the cold front. So if we put on, this is composite reflectivity. First off, you notice that this line of showers and storms stronger into Michigan. The southern flank that's moving through Indiana has weakened considerably, and all the activity that we're seeing across Northeast Ohio is kind of separate from that line. It's just developing because we have an atmosphere that's ripe for thunderstorms with all the heat and humidity. So that's my little spiel for now. I'm going to check comments too, so let me know what you're concerned about. We'll look at Futurecast as well, so that you can get an idea of what the storms are looking like throughout this evening. But I would say we're almost at 8 o'clock, probably 2-3 more hours that we'll have the threat for some of these strong and severe thunderstorms, and then we'll have some quieter weather for a few hours at least. So I'm going to flip it back to regular reflectivity so we get the most high resolution information. These are also a little pulsy. So what that means is that they get tall and strong, and then they collapse on themselves. So you'll likely see a trend of storms weakening and strengthening, but there's still going to be some of those strong wind gusts that are causing problems here. Okay, let's see. Will Stark County get any good storms? So right now there's not a ton. You do have this little sliver of your viewing area included in the severe thunderstorm warning. Worst of it's hitting Summit though. But if you put it into motion, you can see majority of these storms, I'll put it on for a little longer of a loop, like an hour. Most of these storms are pulling east. There's a slight southerly push even in that severe thunderstorm. All of these storms are moving incredibly slow, and that's where there's also a threat for some flooding because of the heavy rain. So Stark, right now I'm not overly concerned with you, but we'll have to watch this storm right here that's just to the north of you and how far it gets in to Stark County. You're certainly not completely in the clear, but right now most of the storms are north of you. Thundering like crazy in Barberton. Same storm, and I believe it. There's so much lightning. We'll pop it back on for the minute here. So Barberton, you are in the thick of it. All of this is lightning. All of that white showing up as lightning. On top of it, you're seeing the heavy rain threat, and also that there could be some of those gusty winds, and why you have a severe thunderstorm warning. I bet it's until 8:15, 8:30. I forgot the time. 8:30. So for another half hour, Barberton getting hit really hard. Greene County included, or Greene, the city, in the severe thunderstorm warning, and also for Akron. And the areas of this, I'm not overly impressed with the winds on this storm, but I'm not surprised why they issued it. There's also probably some hail getting in there too. This is probably our strongest severe thunderstorm, these two. So this one that we have for Medina County and southern Lorain, and then also we have another one that is including southern Erie County, portions of Lorain, Huron. And the reason I say that is just when you immediately look at it, you can see these little spikes of green here, spike of green here. That's where you have that greater threat for damaging winds. Is Cleveland in the path of these storms? So absolutely. There's certainly, the problem is that this isn't a line of storms. They're developing ahead of it, and they're kind of developing where they please. So in terms of saying that we are for sure going to see a storm here and a storm there, I can't really do that, unfortunately. This is where meteorology is not that perfect science. But notice just how close this severe thunderstorm warning that we currently have ongoing for portions of Cuyahoga County, looks like it got a little bit of a trim there, impacting areas just to the west of Parma. So not necessarily downtown Cleveland, but there's more activity out across the lake. So this could skim in the next hour or two and impact downtown Cleveland. So I certainly think that Cleveland is not in the clear by any stretch, but in terms of confidence of where each of these storms and where we'll see additional development, where we could see damage, it's just not one of those days. It's not one of those patterns, unfortunately. It's been kind of a difficult forecast. And, you know, usually I like to say we get like a B for forecasting. You guys might disagree. But in the last few days, it's been a lot harder to get that accurate forecast. Sorry, I just need a sip of water. All right, let's see, what else do we got? How about Lake County? So Candace, very similar to the Cleveland question. Right now, you're not seeing too much activity or anything, but these storms are moving east. So while I can't say exactly where we're going to see new storms develop or how strong they will sustain themselves, you can see that there's activity just to the west of Lake County, including out across the lake. So again, if you were to see anything, it would be from probably about 8 to 10 p.m. And there's still that possibility of, even if you don't get severe weather, that you could still get some storms that bring heavy rain, frequent lightning, enough if you have kids that are a little nervous of storms or dogs that are a little uneasy about it, that it impacts you in that way. Maybe not a for sure damaging storm. That's kind of the situation as we move throughout this evening. Olmsted Falls. So you're kind of in the thick of it at this moment. Let's pause the radar. So we have majority of our thunderstorms are extending from Barberton, and then they extend back up through Vermilion, impacting Litchfield, Spencer, Brunswick. You're going to start to see some of this heavy rain, and then just to the north too. And it's not just, it's all modes really. I think the tornado threat is low. It's not zero. I'm not seeing a ton of rotation though, but it's always a good thing to keep an eye on. I have a feeling that this one is going to get dropped here soon, probably even before 8:15. It's right by the radar site though, so it's always a little bit harder to see, unfortunately, what the storm is doing when it's moving right over the airport, aka where our radar is situated. But we still have, so while it's not showing super intense winds, these are always just your estimates here, and there's that potential for wind gusts of about 60 miles per hour and small hail too. That's the area. Wakeman has the best potential for hail right now. If you're seeing any hail, let me know. I would love to know. And there's also some good hail right now around Wadsworth. Shout out to our overnight photographer. He lives in this area, and if he'll let me know what he saw down there. Pretty sweaty in Willoughby, totally. It is so hot. There's still, of course, that's a huge reason why we're seeing these showers and thunderstorms is because of all the heat and humidity. So even though we don't have the actual front pushing through yet, we are seeing the impacts of when you get all of this fuel. So there's something we look at, there's a parameter that we look at, and it's called CAPE. It's basically convective available potential energy is what it stands for. And we can usually get the threat for severe storms when you even low CAPE values. Sometimes in our neck of the woods, you can get thunderstorms and severe thunderstorms at that, CAPE of 200 to 500. This afternoon, we had CAPE 2,000 to like 3,000. So our atmosphere was ready to go. It is ready, and we have just so much moisture in the air. You're seeing a little bit more. We'll keep an eye on this. This is kind of our worst area of hail at this moment, just to the east of Wadsworth, but also we have it near Wakeman, our two W's here, seeing the worst of the hail. I'm going to check these. A little bit of rotation there, so we'll watch the storm. Let me see what it looks like on reflectivity. Yeah, I don't like that. So this little area we'll watch here around Collins. No matter what, if you're inside this flashing box, we want you to get inside your safe spot, right? Because we do have a new severe thunderstorm warning. So now this is in effect until 8:30, and this is new, right? Yes. And so this is for Erie County, Lorain County from Lorain into Elyria. And both of these severe thunderstorm warnings we're going to have to watch because of just this little area here. It's trying to do something silly with a little bit of rotation showing up, but most of it is still going to be just those damaging winds, and it's kind of crossing over where the original severe thunderstorm warning was, but wind gusts still of about 60 miles per hour. Yeah, hail, every time the National Weather Service issues a severe thunderstorm warning, they put the main threats that they're concerned about. So, oh, and Patrick, there's a meteorologist named Patrick at the National Weather Service. He's also monitoring that same area that we are watching for a little bit of rotation right here. So if you're inside any of these orange boxes from Wakeman's to Collins, that's where we already want you in your safe place, but because there's some rotation showing up, we just don't want there to be anyone caught by surprise. And if you have friends or family that are in the area, let them know. Because right now we have 5 severe thunderstorm warnings. Basically, every storm that's out there is currently warned. Even out across the water, there's a marine warning too. So there is certainly the risk of damage with hail, with damaging straight line winds, so that's 50 to 60 miles per hour, but also keeping an eye on just some areas, some weak rotation. It's pretty broad, but I don't love the way that it looks on the radar. Let's go back a few scans. It's becoming a little bit more broad, which is good. We like to see that, but still, this is what we have to watch. All right, sorry. Sometimes the radar distracts me from the comments. Okay, let's see. Looks like we are at the bottom of the worst. We'll get rain. I'm not sure, Sabrina and Nicole, which storm I missed the original comment. Tornado warning in Brunswick? No tornado warnings for Brunswick, but you do have severe thunderstorm warnings just around you. So there's one strong storm that we have just to the north of Brunswick, and then all of the other severe thunderstorm warnings are out to the west of you. And so while you're not currently included in these warnings, you'll probably see them. And sometimes it's easier when we flip back over to reflectivity, and you can get an idea about where we're seeing the majority of these storms. So Brunswick, you're just outside of the worst of it. Joseph, I'm surprised the Storm Prediction Center has not issued a severe thunderstorm watch. Yeah, I'm surprised too. I guess we could see. It's always interesting to me when they don't issue warnings, and sometimes they'll issue a watch after we already have the warnings, and the whole point of watches is to prepare, right? So it doesn't do as much. The thing that they were more focused on is everything that's happening. Unfortunately, I think that they were more concerned about everything that's happening farther to the west here. So for example, there's in Kirksville, Missouri, there's not just tornado warnings, but confirmed tornado warnings. So while we are certainly seeing some of these severe thunderstorms, in comparison to just the sheer coverage, the sheer intensity, it's way worse to the west, and I think that's where a majority of their focus was today. Anything headed towards Painesville. So right now, most of these storms are actually trying to push a little bit to the south. Our issue for Painesville, Lake County are these storms that are out across the water. So if we put them into motion again, I'm going to go a little bit farther. So this is the last 45 minutes. So just so you can see, and I'll zoom out the entire viewing area so you can find your town or close to it. And if I put it into motion, you can see that these storms are moving east very, very slowly. So how they'll develop and hold together downstream is kind of the big question mark. Do I think that you'll get some storms? More than likely in the Painesville, Lake County area, Ashtabula, Geauga, you'll likely all start to see some of this activity. And I would say the worst of these storms is right now until about 10 p.m. or so. And again, I wish that they were moving faster. All of these storms, I think, have like 20, 25 mile per hour speeds on them. Let me check. Yeah, they're like all moving at like 20, 25, so that's pretty slow. I mean, that's like driving through a school zone. Compared to sometimes we have storms that are going 40 to 50, 60 miles per hour. So they're in and out in a jiff. That's also going to be one of the problems because of the heavy rain, even outside of the fact that we have some of these damaging wind gusts and even a little bit of rotation showing up on the radar. There's also that heavy rain, tons of lightning. I mean, the lightning strikes, if you're just joining us, the lightning strikes are out of control. I'll pop it back on just for a second. I mean, it is lit from southern parts of Canada all the way across the lake and then down into about Akron and Greene. And it does look like these storms, I mean, they're kind of holding steady. I don't see a lot of change in terms of the strength of these storms. Well, this one's trying to weaken actually, so that's good news. This one around Summit and Stark County, that one's falling apart a little bit. The strongest storms continue to be, sorry about that, my mouse got a little crazy. Lorain County, basically. Lorain into Medina, that's where we're seeing the strongest wind gusts. Basically, the entire county of Lorain getting hit pretty hard. There's pockets where you're seeing it a bit stronger. This area that's not even included in a warning, headed towards Strongsville, Brunswick. You also have that broad rotation that we've been keeping an eye on from Florence to Oberlin, Pittsville. More so hail probably, but the atmosphere spinning just ever so slightly. And so we just want to make sure that we're keeping an eye on it. It looks like it's actually gotten more broad, which is good, because that means less likely that a tornado is trying to drop down. But sometimes you can get funnel clouds from things like this. I don't want you to go out and look for it, though. Everybody inside the flashing boxes, get inside. All right. How is the west side of Cleveland looking? So for the time being, west siders are okay. You might actually kind of get gapped. It'll be dependent on this storm. So this storm is moving basically due east, and it's going to try to get into the west side of Cleveland from North Olmsted to Westlake. Again, the big old question mark this entire evening is going to be how long these storms can sustain themselves. I think we have a few hours of that, so certainly I think even though they're moving slowly, so 20, 25 miles per hour, it could take a while for these storms to get here, so we can actually track out some of these storms. Let's find the worst of the rotation, or excuse me, worst of the winds, and then we can track them out. Okay. So it's basically moving due east at about 25 miles per hour. So this first severe thunderstorm warning that we have here that's in effect until 8:30, expected to hit South Amherst at 8:12, so in about 10 minutes or so. Oberlin, 8:15, and then Elyria at around 8:30. So in terms of getting to the west side, it'll be a little bit longer than that. My air conditioning quit working, imagine that. That's not the day, unfortunately. It means anything. So we have 2 studios here at News 5, and I'm in the second one. If you're familiar with like Academic Challenge, I can see the bleachers and where the kids all sit for their challenge, and it is not, it's not cool in here. It is steamy. We have AC in the building, but it just is ventilated a little bit differently, and because the studio is only used sometimes, it's not the priority, but it's quite steamy in here. You know what, I'm gonna turn my mic off for just 1 second, because I'm gonna go clear my throat. I don't want to do it with my mic on, that would be gross, and I'll be back in literally just 2 seconds. Let me turn my mic off and I'll be back in 1 second. Okay, she's back. Too much talking in the humid room, I guess. Take a sip of this too, and then we'll get going. East side of Barberton does not have power. Thank you, Dominic. I'll love to see that. I stepped off to clear my throat, and we're seeing fewer thunderstorm warnings, which is great news, probably as we hit that 8 o'clock hour. So the biggest issue still, I totally agree with what the National Weather Service is doing here. This is a strong storm that's moving through northern Lorain County, trying to creep into Cuyahoga County, those west siders as well. And then the southern flank of that, moving from Erie and Huron County into southern Lorain. Those are our 2 strongest storms. We still have, in terms of the power outages from Barberton, there is that severe thunderstorm warning, and it remains in effect as it continues to slowly push through. This is in effect for another half hour as it continues to push gradually. It does have more of an east push, but slightly to the southeast as well, so impacting areas from Loyal Oak, Barberton, East Liberty. The rainfall is intense, but also there's broad rotation here too. So I don't want to use that word and scare people that automatically there's going to be a tornado that drops down. Sometimes you can see broad rotation, and that's because of hail. So if we flip over, there's certainly showing up on our radar here from Barberton to Copley and Loyal Oak that there is some hail showing up as a threat, that possibility, along with the heavy rain, along with the lightning, along with the threat for some damaging winds, but hail is a concern too. Is Strongsville going to look bad later? Oh, I'm sorry. So Strongsville, Brunswick, we had a Brunswick question just a few minutes ago. You're far enough out of the thick of the worst of the storms that it is a little bit of a question mark of how strong these storms will be because they're moving so slowly in the next half hour, in the next hour as it moves through Cuyahoga County. At this point, I would say prepare, right? Prepare for there to be a strong storm at least, or the impacts from even not a strong thunderstorm. These thunderstorms have so much instability and energy associated with them that heavy rain, frequent lightning, it's going to be an issue. So even if you don't get damage, impactful storms still. And that's a part of why we also do this streaming. Are these the worst storms we've ever seen? No, but they are packing a punch, and they're certainly impactful, especially when we're looking the entire viewing area, right? Most of us are still dry, hot, and humid. When you clear out all of the other rain showers and we're just looking at the storms that are pretty strong here, they're pretty few and far between. We have another one out across the lake, and that will likely try to impact Lake County. But again, it could be an hour from now. So how much energy is left of that storm? This is what I'm going to be watching. Unfortunately, it's just not one of those setups where I could say, yep, it's going to hold together. This area is going to see this storm at 9 p.m. That's a lot easier to do when we get a line of showers and storms. When you have storms that are just kind of flaring on its own and using all of the instability and energy from the heat and humidity, it's a little bit harder to predict. Can we see a tracker of these storms? Sure. Yeah, let's go. So I'm going to leave it on this just because I think it's so much easier to see the threats of these storms. Because if we put on reflectivity, it is raining in other places, but in terms of the intensity and the damage threat, this is easier. So this is known as the Barron button. It's basically our graphic system. I'm going to just turn off the comments for just a second so that you can see it a little bit easier. So Axtell is where the strongest part of this storm is right now. All very, very broad rotation. So basically when I'm looking for rotation in our velocity, which is the parameter that we're on right here, I'm looking for areas of green that spike, I'm looking for areas of red that spike, and I'm looking for them to be close together. So yes, you can see this area of red here and this area of green here, but they're really far apart from each other. So that's less likely that you're seeing a tornado trying to develop, but there's similar properties in order to develop hail too, so you're likely seeing that. Or the storms are just doing a little dance up there and they're trying to spin around each other. It's just not super tight rotation, which is good news. So we'll flip back over to the Barron button, and all of these storms are moving incredibly slow. They're moving 20, 25 miles per hour. So we'll be generous with this length. So for this storm that's in Lorain County and creeping towards downtown Cleveland, we have South Amherst. We're sitting at 8:06. So you have less than 10 minutes until the worst of the storm is pushing towards you. Elyria, you have until about 8:30. Sheffield, 8:35. Let's do the other storms. And I'm going to do a very similar track because they're all moving pretty slow. So these are rough estimates in terms of location and placement because they're just moving so slowly, truthfully. So Kipton, 8:13, Oberlin, 8:22, and then Pittsfield, 8:23. And then we still got this guy here. Let me put it in. I think that this one has a slight southeasterly push. All right, so do you see what I see? How the storm itself is pulling a little bit farther to the south, but the area that's at its strongest continues to push due east. So I'm going to do more of an easterly track for this storm. So it's between Barberton and Akron. So Akron, you'll probably see, the more south you live in Akron, the worse are the storms for you. And in the next 5-10 minutes, Talmadge 827 and Suffield 836. And we'll track the one that's out across the lake too, because I think that it will eventually impact, well, I shouldn't really. Eventually this storm will likely impact Lake County, but because they're moving so slow, it would be silly to try to track it because it's too far away from land at this point. But you notice the trajectory here that is going to continue to try to push toward Menor, Paynesville, but you probably have an hour, truthfully, because of the speed in which these storms are moving. I'm going to check the National Weather Service and just make sure that they haven't gotten any. Okay, so they did get a couple reports. Let's see. 1 inch and a quarter, Barberton. Oh, wow. So there's a guy named Martin in here, and he works in Summit County, and he said 1 inch and a quarter of rain since 7:45. That 1 inch and a quarter, that is a lot of rain. And then dime-size hail reported by a storm spotter. And then the National Weather Service said that they also had reports of 1 inch hail in Barberton. So it's all thanks to this storm that when you look at just the storm threats here, it's popping up as hail as the biggest concern. So Barberton has gotten reports of hail. I'm curious about sections of Erie County and Huron, if we've gotten any hail reports. If the storms have safely passed you, let me know what you're seeing out there. And it looks like we're starting to see a little bit of strengthening here in this storm. And it's just to the east of Medina, pushing towards Granger. Starting to see a little bit more strength in the winds there. It's not severe yet, but it could. Lakewood, Ohio. So these are the storms. Again, a little bit of a question mark. These storms are what we have to watch for you as they continue to slowly push toward you. There's some rain and thunderstorms out ahead of it, but the question will be, in an hour, do we still have the strength of these storms that we have in Erie and Lorain County? But if Lakewood was to see anything, it's going to be from that thunderstorm. And when I say anything, I mean anything threatening, anything damaging. The hail, the damaging winds. We'll likely see some additional thunderstorms throughout this evening that bring heavy rain and lightning. It's more so about the severity of them. Oh, thank you, Maxwell. So wondering about Hudson. Right now, you are okay. Hudson's not seeing too much activity, right? It's a wait and see. I hate to say it. I think that we'll continue to have thunderstorms impacting our region. So right now, your Brandywine, Richfield, starting to see some heavy rain, likely probably some lightning too, yes. So Hudson, you're kind of in that safe zone for the next 20-30 minutes. Even if we don't get severe storms though, you're going to get some thunderstorms here. I would say we're sitting at 8:10, 8:30, 8:40 at the latest. You'll likely see probably by 8:30 you'll get some of these thunderstorms. This is not severe yet, but it's still dangerous because there's so much lightning and there's so much heavy rain as well. And one of the comments in the National Weather Service chat was how much rain some communities have already picked up. So I'm going to turn off the lightning. Let's check storm totals. So this is an estimate from the radar. So it's not official by any means, but that's lining up really close to what the official in the National Weather Service chat said. 1 to 2 inches of rain has already fallen in Summit County between Royal Oak, Barberton. I mean, very, very heavy rain. I'm sorry, you guys cannot see that. Come on. Sometimes this mouse has a mind of its own. So really heavy rain in Royal Oak, and then similar story from Norwalk to Wakeman. That's where another 1.5 inches of rain have already fallen in just the last 2 hours or so. So heavy rain, that not to be ever diminished with the threat for heavy rain. There's clearly a lot of that. And like I said, even if we end up not seeing too many reports of damage, which we're already starting to get some reports of hail, it'll pack a punch because of lightning and the heavy rain too. Thank you, Maxwell. What about Avon Lake? Jessica, oh, you're still, thank you. I appreciate the compliment. That's what I do like about the streaming, is that it can be a little bit more casual compared to what we're used to on air. If and when you ever have seen me do a cut-in for a tornado warning, it just has a little bit more of a professional side or something. Not that I'm not being professional now, it's just a little bit more casual. So I do appreciate that. And that's really our whole point of doing these lives, is to first off let you know that we are always watching the storms. Even on the days, like last night, I didn't go live, but we had some flash flooding just outside of our viewing area, and it was creeping into Erie County. So it was one of those where it was right on the cusp of should I go on, should I not? But eventually they did weaken, so then it was kind of made the decision for me. This area, picking up from Bath to Fair Lawn, certainly torrential downpours, but also I wouldn't be surprised if this gets a warning here in the next 10 minutes, maybe less. It's Granger. I would say if you live in Fair Lawn, Bath Center, even Cuyahoga Falls, you're still pretty far out from the main threat of this storm, but it's strengthening. And these storms have had a history of kind of going up and down in their strength. And so we're starting to see this next storm get a little bit stronger with the hail threat for sure, but also some stronger winds showing up in there. And these areas are always going to catch my attention. Right when it tries to do that little comma shape, it's what we call a hook echo. When it's a tornado, it gets even more aggressive, kind of like this, and it straight up looks like a comma. So when you start to see these little waves like that, it just catches my eye. And so you can also see, of course, this catches your eye as well, that there's trying to get a little hail core in there. And we have a new warning. Avon Lake was the question. So Avon Lake, you are now in a severe thunderstorm warning until 9 p.m. But right now, the worst of the storms staying kind of south of you. You might get gapped in Avon and Avon Lake only, really, because the worst of the storms moving from Amherst into Oberlin, and it's going to continue to push towards Elyria. Avon, you'll probably be right. If you live in the southern half of Avon, you'll probably get some of these stronger storms. But because they're moving basically due east, Avon Lake, while you're inside that severe thunderstorm warning, you might actually end up getting gapped by that. Hold on one second. My producer's here to chat with me. I'm just going to turn my mic off. I'll be right back in just a second. No worries. Whoopsie.
Do you want us to just...
No, I'm okay. Thank you. Okay. That was my producer, Megan. She produces our 11 o'clock newscast and our 7 o'clock newscast. She was just asking about what I'm thinking here for the rest of the evening. So let's get back on track here. For those in Portage County, Southern Summit is pointing in that direction. Okay, so Portage County, yeah, let's talk about it. So right now, not much in Portage. We're going to keep an eye on these storms here. Again, I think a lot of us are going to see, especially in our northern communities, there's not much happening farther south. South of Canton, it's pretty quiet. Looks like this is going to favor areas from Canton north. So Cuyahoga, Geauga, Lake County, Portage, Trumbull, Ashtabula. I think that all of you will eventually see some thunderstorms Again, the big old question mark is going to be how strong are they? They'll still pack a punch, heavy rain. They could still bring some gusty winds, not enough usually to cause damage, 40, 50 mile per hour winds, and some hail too. And we have, basically they've combined this one, there were 2 warnings here, and they're kind of split, and they just made it one big old warning, and that's in effect until 9 p.m. And it's still not even making it. This warning is still not even into Cuyahoga County. That's how slow these storms are moving. It does increase the threat for flooding when storms are this slow moving. Now, you know, I said Avon Lake might get gapped here, but looks like these two are going to try to connect a little bit. So in terms of the worst of the severity, I think you're missing that. Looks like you'll probably get some rain here though. And of course, you're probably hearing the thunder and lightning, or you're hearing the thunder, seeing the lightning as they approach the area too. It's been one of those weeks where the weather, I'll say something and the weather's like, nah, just kidding, we're going to do this instead. It's a complex forecast, and it kind of has, this is where you truly do feel small in terms of what Mother Nature wants to do, what the earth wants to do, because we can track it, we can predict it as much as we can. Data sometimes, it's only as good as our tools a lot of times. And so while yesterday I thought we would see storms like this in the afternoon and evening, and they held off until 10, 11 o'clock. So it's just been one of those patterns that it's just a little bit tougher to predict. And I don't love that, you know, as a meteorologist, we like to try to get it right. But the bigger thing is more about just trying to get the message out there, right? That we have this threat for thunderstorms that could be strong or severe. And even if you don't get any damaging storms, there's still all this heavy rain and so much lightning. And it's just because our atmosphere is on fire. There is so much energy, it was just waiting for us to see these storms start to flare. Constant thunder in Elyria, I believe you. I mean, if we zoom in just on Elyria, pop the lightning back on. I mean, look at all of that. 700 lightning strikes in this one severe thunderstorm warning. It's lightning up and down. It is probably so loud and maybe a little scary for little kids, dogs, cats, any animal that you have because of how loud it is. And any storm is dangerous when there's lightning, regardless of the strong winds or hail. And on that note, let's do another little recap here. So we have essentially 2 severe thunderstorm warnings. We've got this big guy that goes from, it covers almost all of Lorain County. So Lorain County, you are seeing the worst of the storms at this moment, and probably until 8:45, 9 o'clock. On the docket after that will be Medina, creeping into downtown Cleveland, into Cuyahoga County. We also have our second severe thunderstorm warning. That's down into Summit County, Barberton getting hit with hail, getting hit with tons of rain, getting hit with, there's some power outages too. So this storm, moving incredibly slow, is going to continue to try to push towards the northern and eastern section of Summit County, and then also the southern flank of Portage, again pushing more towards the east. So if you live areas between Louisville and Rootstown, this storm will likely impact you in the next hour. In the meantime, we also have this section. While this is not warned, it's likely bringing heavy rain, lightning, we know that, but also probably some hail here. Let's check winds. Okay, so winds are not overly impressive, but we're likely seeing some hail there. From Broadview, Bath Center, you also are probably getting maybe some penny-sized hail, heavy rain, frequent lightning. So Northeast Ohio, is there a more specific section? Like, are you talking like Ashtabula, Lake County? Because right now, you can see that there's not much happening. But we have to watch these storms that are developing out across the lake. As they continue to slowly push to the east, they'll try to impact portions of Lake County from Euclid, Paynesville, up through Ashtabula. It is going to take its grand old time, though, probably after 9 o'clock. So you still have some time. But you'll probably hear the thunder before there's ever a drop of rain. And I'm looking at just the threats here. So we're looking at the hail potential, essentially, and if there was any rotation, which we've had a little bit of rotation showing up here and there, but it's not enough for us to think that there's a tornado or anything. But you can see that there's other areas that are seeing showers. These are just the strongest storms that we have. So essentially 2 warnings. The one for Lorain County pushing towards Medina and Cuyahoga, and then we have the one in Akron, and it includes portions of Stark County. It will likely continue to progress, impacting southern Portage and more of Stark County. And so what we're watching then, while you don't have anything yet, that's a storm we're watching out across the lake that has a marine warning. So that's impacting our boaters. So marine warnings in effect until 9:15, and that goes all the way to basically Euclid, just beyond. So like Wickliffe, Willowick, it continues until then. Oh, this is such a nice compliment. That nurse D. She says, I appreciate, or he, I'm sorry, appreciates going live anytime the weather's bad. I immediately go on News 5's YouTube to check if it's live. It gives comfort. I really do appreciate that. And that's really our hope, is that we're used to meteorologists and broadcast meteorologists at that going on air when there's catastrophic damage associated with storms, or if there's a tornado risk, or like the Solon storms that we had a few weeks ago with the hail. But a lot of times, those days are pretty few and far between. In Northeast Ohio, at least, where you have such bad damage that there's no choice for us to cut into programming. These days are a lot more common, where there are severe thunderstorms, but they're just a little bit less of a risk. They're not as widespread. They don't have as strong of winds. They're not going to cause as much damage. So this is why we do the streaming. So I do appreciate the comment. To ask, okay, so tornado threat is very low. So the question is there any tornadoes involved with the storm? So far we have seen a little bit of rotation showing up on the radar. Not enough to indicate that there is a tornado even trying to form. The atmosphere was just doing a little bit of rotating there. And sometimes that can happen when you're getting hail, which we are. So these storms, while I'm never going to say the threat is zero for a tornado when we have thunderstorms ongoing, right now I'm not overly concerned, but we'll continue to watch it. And the best thing you can always do is make sure that you have audible ways to get alerts. And that includes, if you download the News 5 app, our digital team is awesome. Mercy's manning this feed for me right now at our digital desk. And when we start to get any type of severe storms, they'll start pushing. So even when we started to get our first few warnings and I couldn't get on the stream right away, it was Mercy pushing and letting everyone know, hey, there's severe thunderstorm warnings. So same thing would happen with tornado warnings. And of course, National Weather Service, they're going to be the first ones to issue those warnings. They are the ones that issued them. So you can also get, there's multiple ways to get warnings from them too, including weather radios, because those work even in power outages. So they're super helpful. Let's see. Jared said he thinks he missed his call to be a meteorologist. A lot of people are so interested in the weather, and I obviously understand. Are we going to get any of those white balls? Do you mean like hail or grapple? So hail is certainly a possibility. We've already gotten reports of hail, and they have been, I believe, 1-inch size hail. Let me check. Pea-size hail in Barberton, 1-inch hail in Barberton, so kind of ranging. So majority of the hail reports we have gotten have been around the Summit County area, and Barberton, Akron, that's where we've gotten majority of our reports here. Radar indicates 60-mile-per-hour winds in Amherst right now. And that's the same severe thunderstorm warning. I mean, it has been holding together pretty tight. So this is another tool that we have at the News 5, and it shows here where some of the strongest parts of the storm are, and it will also indicate when there's more. Somebody was asking about the threat for tornadoes. It will also show us, so like this storm right here between Amherst, so that's what the National Weather Service just told us, from Amherst to Sheffield, this is where we're seeing really strong winds, over 60 miles per hour, the strongest part of the storm right here, as it continues to slowly push to the east. And what I was mentioning here, when you look at the banner, you see that the green shows moderate, and then when you start to see those yellows and reds, that signifies a little bit of a better potential for rotation showing up. So this is just one tool, so I'm going to flip over to velocity. I'm not overly impressed with the rotation, to be honest. So while it's showing a pretty strong part of the storm in terms of rotation, I'm not overly concerned at this moment. Probably we're getting some hail, yeah. So right between Amherst, Sheffield, certainly strong storm, 60-mile-per-hour winds, and that's coming from the radar, but still, it's a little nasty out there, no denying it. And someone said that, you know, I won't repeat what they said in the chat here, but talking about that maybe people are being dramatic, but these storms, while they might not cause the worst damage we've ever seen or something, there's so many layers associated with them, with, first off, just the heavy rain threat. From all of Lorain County is basically getting hit. There's a small sliver down to the south where you're not seeing as much activity. And then there's also all of that lightning, hail, and now seeing winds of 60 miles per hour. This is such a silly little shape down here. It's Cuyahoga Falls, you're getting hit pretty hard. So these are the areas we're going to watch. See how the greens and the reds are a little bit closer to each other? You see that spike of green? It's just the atmosphere trying to rotate a little bit. And this is why I will say that I'll never say that the tornado threat is zero, because we've already had some clear images on the radar of rotation trying to develop, but it's just not real strong. It's actually fairly broad, but it's still worth keeping an eye on. That little area. Okay, yeah, that's just, so sometimes radar can do weird things too, where it looks like this is a very strong wind gust, but there's nothing there. So, oh, I'm going to change my microphone real quick. I'm going to pull this up so everyone can look. I'm going to turn the mic off. I'll be back in just 1 second. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank Anthony.
Thank you. All right, thank you so much. So many faces that you guys don't get to see, and they're all awesome. Megan, Mercy, Cliff, a new hire we have. Anthony, he'll be working behind the scenes, and he noticed that my microphone was getting low. So appreciate Anthony, our new News 5 employee. All right, so this is good news. So this storm, in terms of what the National Weather Service is going forward with for the thunderstorm, that even though it still has some strong winds, it still has likely some hail, it has heavy rain, it has frequent lightning, they're downstreaming it as they're lowering the risk downstream as it pulls down to the south and east. You see the difference of the colors here, this orange box versus the beige box. The difference really is the potential for 60-mile-per-hour winds and less than 60-mile-per-hour winds, 40, 50, even 55. So there's still a strong storm pushing through as it continues to push into North Canton, but maybe not 60-mile-per-hour winds, maybe not 1-inch hail, more so like pea-size hail. I don't want to diminish it though. It's still going to, these storms are nasty. They're definitely impactful storms. Okay, just joined. How about Ravenna? I can hear it coming. Anything potential for severe? So absolutely potential for severe. We basically have 2 severe thunderstorm warnings ongoing right now. This severe thunderstorm warning that's pushing through Akron will expire. I think it expires now. Yeah, so I believe that they're going to expire this severe thunderstorm warning, but there's still strong winds associated with the storm. Sorry, my mouse sometimes can be. So you have 50-mile-per-hour winds and half an inch hail. So it's still pushing through. So Ravenna, you're just outside of the thick of this storm. You likely can hear, as you mentioned, you're hearing the winds pick up and probably the thunder too. And that's because it's just next door. So it's knocking on Rootstown, Ravenna's door here. Twinsburg, you're getting lit up with heavy rain, tons of lightning. Bath, I mean, the lightning strikes are wild. For our entire viewing area, I mean, 2,500 lightning strikes, it is loud storms. And the problem too is that they're just moving so slow. So they overstay their welcome. This is not just a bit of rain for 10 minutes or so. I mean, it's a solid 30 minutes that we're seeing these storms last. And so heavy rain that could lead to flooding is another factor of this forecast. Parma Heights. So Parma Heights will be impacted by this storm. It's 8:30 by 9:15. That's truly how slow they're going. We did a little track a bit ago, but it looks like we're starting to get some new viewers. So I do want to do another track. And the easiest way for me to do the track is always to flip over and just kind of look at where we're seeing the worst of the threats. So I'm going to turn this off. Jennifer, thank you for the question. And we'll do some tracking here. And I'm going to do 2 sections within this storm because it's a really big severe thunderstorm warning impacting Lorain County until it's in effect, until 9 p.m. and moving. Most of these storms have been pushing at about 20 miles per hour. Let me check. This is moving 25 miles per hour. So let's do. So Parma Heights still, I mean, you're still really far away. Parma Heights, Parma, realistically, it's probably 45 minutes for the worst of these storms because it's just making it in the next 15 minutes to the western side of Cuyahoga County. So exiting Lorain and moving into Cuyahoga County. So you still have some time if you were hoping to maybe do a quick walk around the block, get the dog outside. But everybody needs to be listening for lightning. As I showed you before, we're even starting to see some lightning strikes out ahead of it too. And this storm is filling in a bit. This lightning is so aggressive. So it filled in this storm, kind of connecting with this one. So Avon Lake, I know it was one of the questions here, and I said that you might get missed. Well, they ended up kind of piecing together these 2 thunderstorms, and these are going to continue to push. So now I feel really confident that everyone in Cuyahoga County will likely get some rain here because both of these storms, the one from Lorain and the one across the lake, merging together here, and they're going to continue to pull farther to the east. But the big question mark will be, will they sustain themselves in terms of how strong they are? Because, for example, this storm that was previously severe, now more likely 50-mile-per-hour winds and hail less than 1 inch. And I never want to diminish it because these storms are packing a punch. But the threshold for severe weather, it's probably just shy of that. So that is good news because damage is less likely. And even if you do get damage, it's kind of like the raw deal. A lot of folks will see impacts in terms of maybe getting some smaller branches, but getting huge trees knocked down, that's less likely. Seeing everybody without power like a few years ago, that's less likely, if that makes sense. Strong winds and trees down in Lorain. So that's where we do have that severe thunderstorm warning where damage is more likely. And it has been the strongest storm. There's been periods of time that this storm to the south was also bringing down some of those stronger winds. Barberton got hit really hard. That's where we've had tons of rain there, some hail reports already, and we heard that there's a bunch of power outages. And I do have a graphic. It's a good, let's see how many people are without power. So not that many. Cuyahoga has 5,500, but I would expect more, honestly. So Barberton has, in all of Summit County, showing up as about 100. Sometimes it takes a minute, though, to get the full numbers for all of the companies. And, of course, this is just an estimate. But is Cleveland going to get, so I think that there's certainly a possibility that Cleveland gets hail. Let's go ahead and say yes, because what I'm going to be watching here as they continue to progress to the east is, are they staying as severe? It doesn't look like, I think that it will be waning, but I would say that just protect them, especially if you're already thinking about it. You have the time. There's thunder starting to move in, lightning starting to move in. So go ahead and protect anything that you want to outside. Move your car if you have to, if you're concerned. It doesn't look like the hail that we had in Solon a few weeks ago, but it does show. We've gotten reports of hail here, and so some of those strong wind gusts. So just, I always play by the rather safe than sorry. Takes a little bit of time to cover up your tomatoes, but you don't want them to get damaged. Hi, Shannon. Let's see. Lost power in the Macedonia area. Thank you, Ember. I think that the numbers might be a little bit small right now. I'm actually going to ask Mercy and our digital team if she's gotten a lot of reports of power outages. All right. Let's see. What about bad in Lorain? Yeah, the worst of the storms right now. This is our only severe thunderstorm warning now, and it's all of Lorain County. So, John, I appreciate the report, the west side of Lorain, and it's going to continue to push. Or do you mean the west side of? It's not. It's this severe thunderstorm warning is in effect until 9. So I bet it's going to continue. Let's check winds. Yeah, we're probably getting 60-mile-per-hour winds here, this entire stretch. I'm not overly concerned about rotation here, but there are spikes here, particularly around Sheffield, Elyria, North Ridgeville, Eaton. You're all seeing the worst of the storms that we have out there right now, if that's where you live, and it's creeping into Cuyahoga County. And as I mentioned, there's also this strong storm that's out across the lake. Avon and Avon Lake, while you're getting some thunderstorms, the worst of the winds to the north and south of you, but these are trying to merge together here. So I think that for North Olmsted, Westlake, Berea, all in the next half hour, those strong winds are going to be pushing into your neck of the woods. And that includes Strongsville, Bennett's Corner, Brunswick. You're not included in the severe thunderstorm warning yet, but if I was to guess, I would say that this is going to get an extension. I think that there's strong enough winds here. Hail threat is not overly high. It's still there, but I would say that this is more about the winds at this point. Okay, Jenny Williams, what about Massillon and Perry Township? So right now, thunderstorms are, and we got this morning was reintroduced down to the south here. So basically, the problem is with all these storms that they have been doing a lot of this oscillation. Now, these last 2 storms have held together pretty nicely, but for the Barberton area, you've been hit really hard. Massillon, you're just outside of the worst of it. So you might be, depending on where you live in Massillon, you could be, if you're on the northern side, you're getting that severe thunderstorm warning alert that you have in your neighborhood. But in terms of the worst part of the storm, I think that you're going to get gapped from it, truthfully. Let's put on regular reflectivity. Yeah, I mean, you're pretty far away, and they are moving slightly south. So you might have some winds. You might even be able to hear the thunder and the lightning, but you see that difference there? It's very, very close, so I won't say that there's 0 chance, but at this moment, not seeing a great threat for you at this juncture. There are a couple storms trying to pop, though, now in Holmes County. Look at that. In just the last 15 minutes, we're starting to see. So we'll keep an eye on that as we have now new development. The first time that we've seen some southern storms for this last hour, really. I think I've been out for about an hour. I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember. Yeah, but I think it's been about an hour. All right, more questions. Let's see. Oh, Massillon, there's your answer to Ashley. How bad will Brunswick be affected by the storm? So the storms are moving into the Medina, Cuyahoga County area, and this is the thunderstorm that we have to watch for you. For Cleveland, for Parma, for Medina, for Brunswick, the storm that's moving, that's still severe, that's moving from Lorain and into northern Medina County, and that includes that includes Brunswick, and then also for Berea, Strongsville, Parma, tons of communities, tons of very populated communities in Cuyahoga County, will likely also be impacted by these storms as they continue to push slowly, slowly to the east. Is it supposed to rain tomorrow? So let's deviate real quick. I don't want to spend too much time off of the radar, but I will show you the future radar. What I will say is that data's been struggling. It's been a tricky forecast this week. But I would say the best chance is going to be in the morning. We'll get some downpours. Then we should have, so you see that there, between about 4 and 8 a.m., another little wave pushes through. The threat for severe weather is relatively low. And then we'll probably have a few hours where we're mainly dry, hot, humid. And then we have to watch the line of showers and thunderstorms that's way out in the Midwest, well, more like the plains. It's in Missouri, Iowa today. The timing will probably be about 30 hours from now. So it should be weak, but it's kind of bookend chances for tomorrow, morning and night. Let's go back over to radar. Nonstop lightning in Elyria. Winds were bad, but eased up. The lightning is no joke. I mean, it is a wild amount of lightning. And the sun is going to be setting here soon. We now have 9 o'clock sunsets, fun fact for you. And as these storms continue to push to the east here, it's going to be a light show, especially if you live close to the water and you're seeing these storms coming towards you. So I do think that even areas that are currently dry, kind of not for long, especially in this northeastern corner. We're starting to see some development to the south. Like I mentioned, Holmes County popping a few storms here. But in comparison, you notice that Mansfield, Ashland basically have been bone dry. This is all from Canton points north, but these are trying to push, this storm in particular, trying to push more to the southeast a little bit. I'm going to take a sip of water for just a second. I'm going to step off. Okay, I am back. Getting bad in Portage County. Yep, so it's just on the edge of Portage County moving in right now. The severe thunderstorm includes this little section of Portage. I always do that. But even outside of that, while the worst of the storm was likely going to be passing, you still have all of this activity, tons of lightning, heavy rain too, maybe even some small hail here from Twinsburg to Cuyahoga Falls through Akron. And we did just get a flood advisory for Barberton, Royal Oak. That's where we've seen some of our highest reports of rain. So now showing up probably over 2 inches in a couple of spots. Yeah, that little area in yellow. Now these are radar estimates, so it's not official, but it usually does a pretty good job of nailing where exactly there was some really heavy rain, because it just looks at what happened on the radar and said, okay, this rain rate was sitting over here for this long, and so roughly we're going to guess this much amount of rain, and it's usually pretty close, like I said. So anywhere from 1.5 to probably 2 inches, creeping on 3, because it's still raining in this area. I mean, it's coming down still. So that's where we have a flood advisory. Flood advisory is in effect until probably a few hours, they usually are. Yeah, until 11:45. Okay, no questions. Is there any worrisome rotation? You're on my same wavelength, Alexis, because it's always good to, I always try to go back and forth of our threats and our concerns. So we'll flip over. So immediately no to this storm, the one that's impacting southern Summit County, northern Stark. Not concerned about rotation here. The winds, straight line winds of 60 miles per hour, but also some hail. And the biggest concern, honestly, I'm mostly concerned about the heavy rain for that flood advisory that includes Royal Oak, Barberton, Greene, East Liberty. All have been hit really hard with some really heavy rainfall. But then we'll flip up to this storm that's into Lorain County. Check the velocities on this. Again, no. we'll watch it, but there's nothing that shouts to me that we're watching a tornado threat. These spikes of green are our bigger issue. So from Belden to North Olmsted, Westlake, Avon Lake, you're all seeing the worst of these storms right now with the 60-mile-per-hour wind threat. And this storm is about to the worst of the storm is about to outrace the polygon that the National Weather Service has issued. While the warning is in effect until 9, I would be surprised if they didn't continue this into Cuyahoga County, because we can put a little loop on this and you'll be able to see for the last 30 minutes it's been staying pretty strong. There's not a huge difference, right? You're seeing those bright spikes of green. So I would argue that we got to keep this warning into Cuyahoga County. And because it's moving so slow, it'll probably be in effect till 9:30 or so. We'll see what they decide. Actually, why don't I check the chat, see what they're thinking. They haven't said anything yet. About 10 minutes ago, they said 60-mile-per-hour winds in Lorraine, Sheffield Lake, which we were already watching. And again, the main concern right now are just these in 2 areas where a lot of people live, from Lorain County into Cuyahoga, northern Medina County, and then also this area in southern Summit, Barberton, creeping now into northern sections of Stark County. It's basically from North Canton to about Hartville that you're going to get the worst of this storm. You'll probably still get lightning, you'll still get some heavy rain, but in terms of the worst of the storms, that's where I think we'll see that. Let's flip back over. So long story short, I'm not overly concerned about rotation at this moment. It's straight line winds, but it's important to note that straight line winds can still cause damage. It's not always tornadoes that are giving you the damage, and we've gotten some reports of hail too. So this area, this is called the Barron button, and it shows us areas of where we're seeing the threat for rotation, but more so the difference between rain and hail. It's really good at showing us areas that are probably getting some hail. It's usually, one thing I will say, it's a great tool. It's usually a little overdone in terms of if you click it to see. That's why I don't normally click it, because if you put a little Curie on it to see how large the hail is, it's usually slightly overdone. We've gotten reports of about 1/4 inch hail and pea-size hail. So certainly it's dropping some hail here, but it's not like, I think that once you get an event that Solon had a few weeks ago, where it was such a damaging storm, not seeing that at this moment. So Massillon area has a warning until 9:15. Yes, so that is this storm. But as I mentioned, I think that the worst of it, the northern section of Massillon is included into that warning, but I think the worst of it is going to miss Massillon. I think it's going to continue to push. We'll watch it. We'll see if there's some redevelopment farther to the south. But do you see where we're looking for Barberton, East Liberty, and Massillon's way down here? It's still in the warning, but a lot of times they'll go bigger for the warning than necessary, because it covers the whole area where there's some risk. Okay. I haven't heard continuous thunder like this in years. Nonstop lightning. Akron has been getting hit hard coming from that direction. Absolutely. No matter what storm reports we get, these storms are packing a huge punch with lightning alone. I mean, 2,000 lightning strikes. That is an insane amount of lightning strikes. For the entire viewing area, it's probably more like 3. Yeah, I mean, huge. Let's keep an eye on the storms out west here. What are you guys doing? Okay, it looks like the worst of the storms out to the west impacting Michigan. All the storms we're seeing are prefrontal. As I said once on air, prefrontal nonsense, and it really tickled Rob Power's funny bone. But the southern side of the storm, it's kind of falling apart. So that's great news, because hopefully once we get these storms out of here in the next hour or two, that we'll be able to have just some quieter weather then for a few hours. But the lightning is no joke. And this is why we always say when thunder roars, get indoors. any lightning strike is dangerous, but it becomes more dangerous when you're seeing this much lightning. And so it's always a good idea to let these storms pass and get inside. And I'll probably start to hear them pretty soon here in downtown Cleveland. I mentioned it before that I thought that they should continue the warning, and they agree at the National Weather Service. So they have gone ahead and issued a continuation, we'll say. It is technically a new severe thunderstorm warning, but it's because of the same threats that Lorain County has been seeing. The storm has just been chilling in one spot. It's because they're moving so slow, 20, 25 miles per hour. So going through a school zone versus sometimes we have thunderstorms that are racing across our viewing area. And that's where the flood threat is going to be an issue too. Even after the worst of the winds pass through, you still have some of that heavy rain, and it's just kind of parking itself over you. But the latest update here is that all of Cuyahoga County now, well, I lied. There's a small section that's not. So if you live in Gates Mills, Hunting Valley, Beechwood, not included, but majority of Cuyahoga County now in a new severe thunderstorm warning until 9:30 p.m. Same risk. We're still going to have the threat for hail. We're still going to have the threat for the main reason that we have the severe thunderstorm warnings is because of wind gusts of 60 miles per hour, which is enough to cause damage. It's enough to cause power outages. But there's multiple threats, right? All of the lightning and all of the heavy rain too. And the National Weather Service just mentioning the fact that there's also that flood advisory for the southern half of Summit County because there have been reports of 2 inches of rain, which is what our radar estimates were showing as well. So it's doing a pretty good job of picking up how much rain actually fell in that area. Multiple threats, multiple issues. So I'm just getting on my watch here. Well, I mentioned that there's multiple ways that you can get warnings. So I just got an alert from the National Weather Service that there is that severe thunderstorm warning issued for now Cuyahoga County, and it's because it knows where I'm at. And so that is going to continue to push into our western communities. Pause for just 1 second. I'll be right back. Hi. So I'm getting presented here from Rob Powers some water. I appreciate it. Thank you. I was just chatting with my producer as well about the progression of these storms because now that it is impacting Cuyahoga County. Oh, and we have an upgrade here. That flood advisory, now flash flood warning. Totally different in my opinion of what that means. Flood advisory, there's certainly going to be some flooding. Flash flood warnings out of my 10+ year career in terms of people losing their life from severe weather, it's because of flooding. So, and it's flash flooding. And especially as we're getting now towards sunset, it becomes even more life-threatening. And I don't want to be dramatic about that. I'm being serious. That flash flood warnings are no joke. So from Barberton, because it is still raining there, there's so much lightning. And East Liberty, Green, you're all included in this flash flood warning. And it is in effect until almost midnight. So for the next several hours, if you have to travel, I totally understand. People have to go to work. I work weird hours, I understand, but use extreme caution. And if you don't have to travel, do not. I'm gonna just take a quick sip and then we'll focus on Cleveland here. So Kevin's wondering if we can't afford a weather assistant. So we do have a whole weather team here, but Trent McGill is on vacation now. Meteorologist Alan Nosif is filling in for him tomorrow morning. And then Phil is actually filling in for me on Friday because I have a wedding in New Orleans. So our schedules are a little wonky here, hence why I'm going to be doing it alone. But I have an awesome team here behind the scenes from Rob Powers giving me water, Mercy at Digital, and my producer Megan. So I do, we got it covered here. You can see the lightning over Willowick. Ooh, we'll have to check some of the cameras because I bet downtown Cleveland is also getting, probably you can see some of the storms too. Let me pull up one of the cameras. Ooh, that looks ugly. So this is our Hilton camera, and we are looking west. So we are looking directly into the storms that are crossing the lake, moving into downtown Cleveland. So I haven't heard anything yet in downtown. We are slightly more east, but the lightning is so wild that it is still pretty far out, but not for long. Okay. Wonky land. Pretty hard in West Akron, absolutely. Basically, our two most populated cities in Northeast Ohio, Cleveland and Akron, both getting hit, and that includes now basically all of Cuyahoga County and the northern section of Medina. You are in the severe thunderstorm warning, so Brunswick getting hit incredibly hard at this moment. So much lightning and the heavy rain, the gusty winds, the hail. Thankfully, the only thing that we haven't seen a huge threat for is tornadic. We've had slight little periods where, and I'm always going to be watching it, but this is kind of a perfect scenario where the threat is not zero, but it's not our biggest concern. Basically, everything else in the litany of hazards of severe weather are included. Now, currently, what we're looking at is the worst of the winds pushing through Avon Lake, West Lake, creeping towards Bay Village. Yeah, all of these areas, a lot of our western suburbs starting to get the worst of the winds at this moment, and it continues then toward Berea as well. But also, just out ahead of it, the storm that's coming from the lake. So downtown Cleveland, East Cleveland, Euclid, you're probably feeling the winds pick up a little bit. You're probably starting to hear the thunder too, even though the storm's way out. And yeah, rotation is still, looks like we probably still got some hail. Absolutely. Barberton, every time I look at the radar, Barberton is still impacted. It has been so long. Let's go back. These are just the slowest moving storms. It's kind of filling in again and again. So first time Barberton started to get rain, it's about 7:45. So over an hour, it's just been pouring. Hail, heavy rain, tons of lightning. So the southern half of Summit County has been hit incredibly hard in terms of rainfall in particular. Lorain County, you are seeing the worst of the storms clear, finally. But that means that Medina, Cuyahoga, you're all seeing some strong storms, severe storms, wind gusts of 60 miles per hour. Not to leave out our friends to the south, there's thunderstorms ongoing from Coshocton, Holmes County. You will, nothing severe, but there's showing up as some really heavy rain, lightning for you too. The thunder is awesome, Tony. Tony's into it. So, I mean, a true light show here. And we can do, once again, these storms are just moving so slow. Oh, we did get a report from Lorain County that there's a tree down on a house, West 37th, the city of Lorain. I'm going to just message my producer to let her know. Sorry, I don't want to be unprofessional on my phone. I just want to make sure that our news desk is also hearing. I just do a voicemail, it'll be faster. Hi, I don't know what our reporters are on this evening, but if you were doing anything weather related, there's a report from Lorain County that there's a tree down in the city of Lorain, West 37th Street. Just want to let you know. Okay. The lightning flickering in the clouds looks nuts. Let's go back. Let's look at a few cameras. So this is our Hilton camera. We are looking dead into the storm here to the west. I'm just going to give it a minute. Oh yeah, I mean, it's all within the clouds there. But we have a lot of different camera angles. I don't know what this camera's set to. Okay, that's old. That is not what it, well, maybe. No, it stopped working. It's way too bright. What time is it, Katie? It's 9 o'clock. Let's go back because that is not a current live shot. And we'll flip over to, ooh, what a cool looking shot of downtown. All right, let's give it a second. This is, I'm kind of standing right in the best shot. So right there is where I've seen majority of the lightning. The lightning is making its way into downtown Cleveland, moving from Lorain and northern Medina County, not to leave out Summit County, northern Stark as well. I mean, the lightning is just so intense. The entire thing is just lit up. Even the storms that aren't as strong, like this one. And that just shows that there's so much instability, and it's all thanks to that heat and humidity. Which I mentioned it before. Somebody had mentioned that their air conditioning's out. The studio that I'm in, it's where we shoot Academic Challenge, and it's just it's not used all the time, and so it's just for whatever reason so much hotter in this room. So I feel for anyone that doesn't have air conditioning because it is super hot still. Let's see the current temperatures. Oops. 83 down in Mansfield, 76 in Cleveland. So still pretty steamy out there. Looking towards Akron, there's no breaks in the lightning strikes. It's contagious. We do have a camera shot in Akron, but I think it's looking north, so we might not be able to see as much. And in order to move the view, it's a little bit of a pain. It's not impossible. Yeah, it's not the best view. It's showing that it's clearly been pretty rainy there with all the flash flooding concerns. And if you're just joining us, the lightning is capturing everyone's attention, especially now that the sun is going down. I mean, it is going to be a straight up light show. Any photographers and stuff, just use extreme caution, because I mean, it's always really cool to see them on social media, but we want you to get indoors when there's thunderstorms that are strong and severe, which is what we have. So basically, all of southern Summit County is lightning. And then you have the heavy rain, but then you also have this flash flood warning, and that's in effect until almost midnight because of how much rain has fallen. So there's still hail. Barberton, you're on the very brink of getting some drier weather. But there's no comparison to how much rain that thunderstorm brought. To the other thunderstorms have brought a lot of rain too, but there's a clear higher amount from Loyal Oak, Barberton, Portage Lakes. This is where we have our flash flood warning because of 2-inch rainfall in just the last hour or two. Really more like an hour and a half. So I mean a ton of rain, and there were reports of some hail there too. So downtown Cleveland, let's check those winds. They're moving through the strongest winds just north of Westlake, between Westlake and Bay Village. One of my best friends lives in Bay Village, Sierra. So the strongest winds impacting her right now. And then they're going to continue to push towards Rockport, Lakewood. If you're flip back over to reflectivity, we're starting to see the first wave of showers in Lakewood, Brook Park. Berea, you're getting hammered with the heavier rain. Brunswick, heavier rain. But the strongest winds showing up from Hardscrabble. I've never heard of that town. One of my favorite things about doing severe weather coverage, but just besides trying to keep you all safe, is learning and seeing town names that I grew up in Northeast Ohio. I've never heard of that town. So shout out to Hardscrabble. There's an area right here that we have to watch of some stronger winds, just headed towards Bennett's Corner. And then also from Avon Lake through Bay Village, some strong winds there too. And then farther to the south, let's check your storm. Strongest winds here are from Altman into Cairo, pushing towards North Canton. So that's where we're seeing the strongest winds for you. And while we're at it, we don't want to leave out anyone to the south. There is a thunderstorm in Holmes County, but we're not seeing super, super strong winds, so that's great news. Lightning headed into Menor, absolutely. So there's the thunderstorms that are out across the lake, and these also have those strong winds. This is why there's this marine warning, and the marine warning has been expanded to include areas all the way to the east. So in just the last 15 minutes or so, it includes now the lakeshore community, all the way, almost all the way across the lake because of the thunderstorms. And so therefore, while there's plenty of us that are dry in Lake, Ashtabula, Geauga counties, you're next. These storms holding together here, and just like that. While you are not seeing a ton of action yet from Chardon to Paynesville, you are now included in a severe thunderstorm warning until 9:45. So those really, really strong winds, 60 miles per hour. The reason why we are getting the severe thunderstorm warnings continued and super strong winds. Ooh, look at that. That's why. Even out ahead of the storms, it's what's coming off of the lake. So I'm pretty sure the same comment of where you're seeing the lightning for Menor is because of what's coming off of the lake. So some strong winds right now moving into Bratnall, Eddy Road, impacting Euclid at this moment. Yeah, oh, these are some of the strongest winds we've seen today. Let's do. So showing up on the radar at 64, so creeping towards 70-mile-an-hour winds. So that's East Cleveland, Euclid, Bratnall, some strong winds coming off the lake here. And that's why you have a severe thunderstorm warning. And that includes northern sections of Geauga County. All of Lake County is in this warning as well. So if you live in Lake County, Menor, Wickliffe, Willoughby, Concord, you are all included in Madison in this severe thunderstorm warning until 9:45. So even if you're not even hearing any thunder yet, it's coming for you. Heavy rain in Strongsville, absolutely. You are in the thick of it right now. Strongsville to Brunswick, seeing some of that really heavy rain and gusty winds and some hail being reported too. And the lightning, lest we not forget that there is so much lightning. I don't have it turned on because you can't see anything besides the lightning. I'm just going to take a quick sip of water. So scary dark clouds in Menor. I 100% believe it. These storms, I never want to diminish anything, but if you are a little uneasy about tornadoes or things like that, haven't seen real strong indications of rotation. There have been some broad areas of rotation, not enough to indicate that there's been any tornadoes or anything, but we still have the threat for some straight line damaging winds, anywhere from 60 to now maybe even 70 mile per hour winds, and that includes the Menor area as these storms race into the now north and western sections of Lake County. Then from Cleveland to points south into northern Medina County, you are also seeing these strong winds. Most notably, I've seen some spikes of some stronger winds around Westlake, Bay Village, and then the heaviest rain, the biggest rainmaker has been around Barberton, Loyal Oaks. So depending on where you live, different threats. We all have kind of the same threats, but in terms of what we're seeing, the worst of, it has been a little bit variable. But everybody, now that the sun is down, the lightning is going to be wild. I'm just going to check my phone. I never want to be unprofessional, but a lot of times I can get some good information from reporters, producers, digital team, anything like that. So my friend Sierra that I just mentioned, that she lives in Bay Village, and she said, I didn't realize the rain was going to be this bad. Best friends with a meteorologist, I tell you. Okay, so yeah, most of the comments here are just people talking about the lightning that they're seeing in their neck of the woods. Just left Lorain County. Mel, I am happy for Lorain County because it was very slow. Let's go back 2 hours. Gosh, even at 2 hours, Lorain was still impacted. These storms started as basically, they were trying to be little supercells here. And then kind of merged into one big area of rain, thunder, lightning. And you know what? It's one of my favorite computer models. It's called the HRRR. It's called the High Resolution Rapid Refresh Computer Model. And it was showing this today. So let's check what it has. Now granted, it has it a little bit more widespread. This is why I was having a hard time trusting it during the 4, 5, and 6 o'clock newscast. But because it's not this widespread, right? At 10 o'clock, we'll still have these showers and storms. I just don't think it's going to be, the entire viewing area. But in terms of it showing that it was strengthening, moving to the east-southeast, and pulling out of here by about 11, 12 o'clock, that's all lining up pretty well here. So even if you haven't been impacted by the storms yet, for areas like Portage County, Southern Geauga, Ashtabula, Trumbull, they're holding together pretty nicely. I think we'll continue to have these storms probably for another 2 hours in our viewing area, and then they'll weaken in terms of their intensity and exit our viewing area. Let's keep an eye on these. Yeah, these are not looking impressive at all out west. That's good. Yeah, okay. So the good news is that while we have these storms that are ongoing right now that are packing a huge punch, they're the worst of the line of showers and storms in Michigan. We'll have to watch them, of course, as they continue to progress to the east. There's a couple tornado warnings in Michigan too, near Saginaw. But in terms of what's happening on the southern side of it, it's not super impressive. So that's good, because then hopefully this is the only round of showers and storms that we have to deal with for tonight. Lightning show in Menard, believe it. No rain yet in Parma. Oh yeah, you're just on the edge. You're going to get rain here. The worst of it is just on the other side of the airport there. So moving through Avon Lake, Westlake, North Olmsted, downtown Cleveland, you're 10 minutes max from the heaviest rainfall. Super heavy rain moving through Wickliffe, Euclid, Richmond Heights, Willoughby. Yeah, there's these little spikes here. Most of the winds here are about 60 miles per hour, but there's a couple little spots here where it's trying to get stronger, 65, maybe 70 mile per hour winds. Yeah. 2.3 inches of rain in Portage Lake in 45 minutes. That's what the report from the National Weather Service was for this. So much rain for that flash flood warning. And as I mentioned 20 minutes ago or so, when it comes to flash flood warnings, they are so dangerous, especially once the sun goes down, because you can't always tell if a road is flooded. So if you live inside, it's kind of hard to tell. But I'm going to do something actually. I'm going to pull in a graphic that just shows all the alerts, so without any radar, for just a minute, so that you can see, well, the current warnings that we have. I'm going to turn off this comment real quick. Okay. So we have one severe thunderstorm warning. That's for all of Lake County. It includes the northern portions of Geauga County, in effect until 9:45. Then we have the Cuyahoga severe thunderstorm warning, mostly for the western side. There is a little sliver here of the east side of Cuyahoga County that is not included, but you probably will be eventually. Northern Medina County, and it's in effect until 9:30. Then we have this other severe thunderstorm warning that's in effect until 9:15. I don't know if they're continuing to push it, because it's 9:15 right now. They're going with strong storms, but this storm has had this history of producing incredibly heavy rain, and so Akron is included in that flash flood warning. Again, use extreme caution. Getting hammered in Wickliffe, absolutely. That is where we have 60, 65 mile per hour winds pushing through right now. There's still some strong winds even in this new new strong storm that they went with. So special weather statement is what they call it. So it's basically pushing now more into Stark County. So North Canton, Canton, Paris, now all included in this until for another hour, where basically you can have wind gusts of 50, 55 mile per hour winds even. But the threshold is just a little bit less. This storm, there's no denying how strong this storm has been in Summit County. So as it continues into Stark, prepare for heavy rain, frequent lightning, wind gusts 50, 60 miles per hour, and there have been some reports of hail. Hail hasn't seemed like a huge issue in terms of causing damage, but still, it's out there. And then the Wickliffe area, yeah, there's very, very strong winds. And the heavy rain, we could check the rain rates too. From Euclid to Richmond Heights, Wickliffe, Willoughby, all seeing intense rainfall. And the big problem with these storms, it'd be one thing if it was in and out in 10 minutes. They've overstayed their welcome. For some folks, about 45 minutes to an hour, even longer. And we're still seeing, even as the worst of the storms pass through Lorain County, you're still seeing some heavy rainfall totals in the northern section of Lorain, into Avon Lake, Avon, Bay Village, Westlake, all seeing that very intense rainfall. Westlake still seeing, every time I look at the radar, I have to check and make sure that I don't have it set back like 10 minutes, because sometimes I'll do a little view around the area and it still is in the same spot where that's how slow these are moving. So between Bay Village and Westlake, that's where we have some of these strong, strong winds and the heavy rain too, of course. And the strongest part of the storms right now is pushing through Bay Village, Westlake, and then also from Wickliffe all the way to about Chardon is where the strongest winds are. Creeping into Menor now, Concord, all of the strongest winds here. And then to the south, even though it's not a severe thunderstorm warning, at least for the time being, those strongest winds from Lake Cable all the way into Uniontown. That's where we have the strongest winds. And again, every time I look at the winds, I'm keeping an eye and making sure that the radar isn't trying to do anything funny, including seeing the rotation. So we know that we have the straight line wind threat, but there have been periods of time where there's been some broad rotation. It has not been the biggest concern, but I'm always going to be keeping an eye on that. I hate lightning and thunderstorms. Michael, I understand. They can be, first off, annoying, impacting your day. They can be scary. That's why I became a meteorologist, was because I was terrified of storms as a little kid. And obviously, sometimes if they're causing damage, like we had a report in Lorain County of a tree on a house, that's not just for an hour that they're dealing with the storm, then that poor house and family, sometimes that can take months to recover from. That's why I say often times, if we love to get rain, it's important that we get rain, but if we can avoid having severe weather, that would be, I'm always going to celebrate not getting severe weather. And unfortunately, that is not today. Let's see. Good luck, East Side. It's a winner. It is. It's even though there is not that many severe thunderstorm warnings, right? A lot of people live in the boxes that we have had flashing, from Lorain County to Cuyahoga to Medina to Summit to now Lake County. I mean, truthfully, where so many people live across Northeast Ohio. So, because there will be times where we'll get a lot of emails, especially if we're cutting in and it's an area where it's just not as populated. When you're getting this many storms, I know my social media feed is going to be lit up with all of the lit up skies. I can see right now, as they're recording some stuff in the other studio, that the camera shots in downtown Cleveland, I mean, it's just firing off. Let's look at our cameras again. Not that one. I keep going back to that one. Oh! That was a great moment to go. I'll have to go back and look at that. 9:21. That was an awesome lightning strike. We'll just hang on this for just a second. I'm sure we'll get so many videos. And if you have been able to see any severe weather or safely take any pictures, video, please feel free to send them in, especially if they're from your living room or something. You're able to clearly stay inside, stay safe. Would love to see them, like what I'm doing right now, that you're able to see. That was perfect timing to see that awesome lightning strike. I'm just going to give it one more second because I don't want to stay off the radar too long. Come on, give us one more. There's obviously more lightning strikes, but I wanted the one that was, there it was, some good lightning out there, but incredibly dangerous, right? It's beautiful, but dangerous. And we have the dangerous winds too, the dangerous amount of rain. Multiple threats here that we're worried about. On the lightning note, let's see. Yeah, I mean, even post-sunset now, we still have 2,500 lightning strikes across our viewing area as they creep slowly to the east. We've been on since, I believe it was like 7:45 we got on. And the storms they're moving, but whew, is it slow. It's because most of these storms are only moving 20, 25 miles per hour. So that's where you have the concern, like in Summit County, where we have the flash flood warning until 11:45 because of how much rain fell. And a big part of that is, yes, these storms are packing so much rain. There's so much moisture to work with in our atmosphere because of all that humidity. The dew points were in the 70s today, so it felt really uncomfortable. But that also represents how much moisture that we have to work with. And so the atmosphere was primed and ready to storm, to drop all this heavy rain. But it would be nice if we could kick it along a little bit here so that even if you get a storm, even if you get a severe storm, it doesn't just sit and park itself over you. Canton in green, nonstop rain and lightning, totally. It's just to the north of Canton. Oh, Canton looks green outside. I thought you were saying and green. It's probably, yeah, all of that lightning. There's still some spikes here. We have a strong thunderstorm pushing through, and it's headed through North Canton, headed towards Louisville. And the worst of the storm just to the north of Canton. You'll probably miss out on the absolute worst of the strong winds, but you're still going to get impacted by heavy rain and, of course, all of that lightning that you're seeing. Because when you look at the radar, and if we put it into motion for the last 30 minutes, see the progression of the storm. Not to say you won't see any rain or lightning or thunderstorms, but this current storm that's pushing through that you're able to see the lightning from, that is likely going to just miss you. It's just to the north. Hold on, I'm going to step off 1 second. I'm going to put the radar for the entire viewing area. I'm just going to clear my throat and take a sip of water. So I'm going to turn my mic off, but I'll be back in just 1 second. Okay, when will it hit Cleveland Heights? So Cleveland Heights, we could do a little tracking too. So for the Cleveland Heights area, and all of our heights really, you are missing the Lake County storm that's pushing from the lake and it's moving due east. So you still have a bit of time. Because of how slow these storms are moving, you'll probably see, let's see, it's 9:30, probably between 10 and 10:30. We'll likely get this wave of thunderstorms through here. because it's just so slow. You'll probably start to see, you probably can hear some lightning and thunder. You might even have a couple of light rain showers, but the worst of the storms just to the west here from Bay Village through Westlake. And then coming off with a lot of energy here from the lake. So areas from Willoughby, Wade Hill, Peck's Corner. Showing up is a little bit of hail, probably more so just that wind. Yeah, the wind is the biggest issue here through Lake County, northern Geauga County. 50, 60 mile per hour winds, which is good because it has weakened a little bit as it's pushing through. It was originally 65, 70 when it first came off the lake, so that's good. It still can cause some damage here, but it does look like it's weakening a little bit. And I would say most of the storms are. This is good to see. This latest radar scan is of our winds. This little area, is that real? Sorry, sometimes I talk to myself. Oh, we have a flood advisory for Lorain County, and that includes basically just northern Lorain County because of all of the heavy rain and how slow these dang storms were. So let's see what that is in effect until 12:30 p.m. So that's going to be the lingering issue. Even after we get these storms out of here, that the flooding concern is going to be a possibility until 1 a.m. or so. But the worst of the rain, Barberton, every time for a while. Let's see if you finally are drier. Well, no, not really. There's like another, the storms from the north are breaking apart a bit, but going to keep rain in the forecast then for Barberton. So Wadsworth getting hit with another round of some heavy rain. I can finally hear some thunder. Now, granted, I'm in a concrete building, so sometimes, usually the storm has to be like right on top of me to hear the thunder, but I'm finally hearing it. So, and I am on the east side of Cleveland. So the worst of it right now in Cuyahoga County, impacting Lakewood and moving into downtown Cleveland. I'm cautiously optimistic on these last few radar scans that the storms in general are weakening a little bit, which could be because of the sun going down. It's still incredibly warm outside and still very humid, but in comparison to the heat of the day, like when these storms started to get going, that you were at 6, 7 o'clock, we still had 3 hours with the sun up. So like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic that these are weakening and a weakening trend, which would be fantastic news for some of our eastern communities, because then while you'll still likely get some thunderstorms, you'll still likely get some heavy rain, getting all of that lightning. The light show is wild out there. The damage concern comes down. So that's good news. We have over 1,000 people on our stream, so I so appreciate that. Mickey Fitz, they're moving slow, folks. Set in for the evening. You're not wrong. They are moving so slow, 20, 25 miles an hour. So the way that I always compare that is if you're driving through a school zone, 20 miles an hour, right? Compared to storms a few weeks ago that we had, well, it was more like a few months ago, it was in March. I mean, those were going 60, 70 miles an hour. So that's highway travel. So as long as it would take you to drive through a school zone from Lorain County to downtown Cleveland to then Geauga County is basically how long these storms are taking. Hey, okay, so we were able to drop the severe thunderstorm warning for Cuyahoga County. So now we only have one severe thunderstorm warning, and that is for all of Lake County. And it packed a punch as it came off the lake there. It was rearing its ugly head as it came off the lake, had a ton of juice with it, and now moving into, oops, I'm sorry. Let me get this into the right position so you can actually see it. And moving into Geauga County now. So Chardon, getting hit Chesterland. You're probably feeling the winds, the heaviest rain just to the north of you. Painesville, you're up next. Madison, you're up next. I did see a question here about, are you guys seeing that? Or is it just me? Does the feed look weird? Let me know. Like right here. Does it look strange to you? is Kent, Ohio good? So Kent right now, you're not obviously seeing too much activity, but I wouldn't say good, quote unquote. I would say that you're going to have some showers and thunderstorms in the next hour or two. The big question that has been my question and what I am on for is just keeping an eye on if the severity stays. So it's been holding basically since our western communities when these storms first became severe in Erie, in Lorain County, and they have held together. But in just the last 15, 20 minutes, we're starting to see storms decrease in their intensity in terms of the strong winds, the damaging wind threat, why we were getting severe thunderstorm warnings. What we will still have to monitor for the next 2-3 hours is the heavy rain, the frequent lightning. And then another way that you can tell if a thunderstorm is weakening is the amount of lightning, which in this scenario is not a great indicator because there's still so much lightning. 2,600, 2,600. So the lightning has stayed basically status here. Starting to intensify again in Barberton. So that's that next storm that it's just, there's already been so much heavy rain. You're getting another blast of some rain moving through Bath, Granger, Copley, Loyal Oak, where we already have this flash flood warning in effect until 11:45. So it's just going to aggravate a situation that's already aggravated because of how much rain has already fallen. Over 2 inches of rain in, which community was it? If I zoom in, I'll probably get Portage Lakes. Portage Lakes had a report of 2 inches of rain in 45 minutes. So now you're getting another batch of some heavier rain pushing through, which is just not the ideal situation. I'm going to check with the National Weather Service and see if they've gotten any reports of damage. And if you have any reports of damage, please let us know. So let's see. Report from Amherst, trees confirmed down. One is 1 foot in diameter, was a healthy tree. The difference, obviously, with a healthy tree versus a tree that's rotted is that it's a lot harder to knock down a healthy tree. So that shows, and we did get reports from the radar at that time, 60, 65 mile per hour winds as it moved through Amherst. And then there's the damage on West 37th to a business tower, no power from Tower Boulevard in the city to Route 58 in the city of Lorain. So Lorain, no doubt, was hit very hard. This severe thunderstorm warning getting a little bit of a trim because the worst of the storms have passed through the Euclid area. Wickliffe is kind of through the worst of it too, but still getting hit really hard from Menor, Little Mountain, Kirtland Hills, Concord, Painesville, Fairport Harbor, all getting hit pretty hard here. Like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic. Let's do another little scan here. Yeah, the winds are all coming down. I feel good about that. This is good news that we're seeing a weakening trend. With the storms that are pushing through Cleveland, you're still seeing probably gusts of 50 miles per hour or so, but in the, something weird happened. Uh-oh. There we go. There's still very strong winds for Lake County, really, is they're getting the strongest winds. Once again, seeing this spike here from, it's Concord points towards Thompson. That's where we have 60, 65, maybe 70 mile an hour winds trying to come down to the surface here. Hamden, so southern sections of Lake County and into northern Geauga, that's the worst of our storms at this moment. And we still have the severe thunderstorm warning in effect for 10 more minutes. Let's prepare, friends in Ashtabula County, for this to continue to you at about 10 o'clock. It's held together pretty nicely, and it just had so much strength as it came off the lake because we obviously have the storms farther to the west. These are weakening. What's moving through downtown Cleveland, the winds are not nearly as strong. There's still tons of heavy rain, tons of lightning. But if we put on the reflectivity, actually, you know what, I'm going to stay on this so you can see it. In the last 30 minutes, there's two different sections of the storm. So we had the previously warned storm that came from Lorain County that was impacting Bay Village, Westlake in the last half hour. And then this section of the storm came off of the lake, and that impacted East Cleveland, Euclid, and now has continued. And this section is moving considerably faster. Let me check the speeds here. You can just see how much faster it's moving, which is a good thing. Yeah, these are moving at 40 miles an hour. So let's go ahead and track the worst of this storm and points east. So for Geauga County, farther east Geauga County, and also for Ashtabula. So they're moving at 40. So here's our track for the strongest winds right now, and I can hear the thunder in downtown Cleveland where I'm at. Montville, 940, so it's basically on top of you. Trumbull, 947. Orwell, 955. So the great news about that is that the strongest storms could get out of northeast Ohio and into Pennsylvania. Not to say that we don't care about Pennsylvania, but that it could clear our viewing area within the next half hour, which would be great news. What I don't like is that while most of the storms are weakening, this storm is actually picking up in intensity. Now it's not just the reds, we're seeing the pinks too, from Hamden, Montville, all the way to South Madison. So swinging right through the southern sections of Lorain County, or Lake County, northern Geauga County, and then continuing into Ashtabula. So while you don't have a severe thunderstorm warning yet, I have a sneaky suspicion the National Weather Service is going to go into Ashtabula here. And then probably northern Trumbull. Well, they might not. They might just stay right with Ashtabula here. These are basically moving due east. So Ashtabula County, while you are not included yet, I think that you will be. And Geauga, you already are included in it with the strongest winds right now, and you're impacted by it. After that, it's really it's all moving towards Ashtabula. Let's keep an eye on the other winds here. We still have this strong storm, but do you see the difference in the colors for the Stark County storm, North Canton, versus what we have moving through Lake and Geauga? That this is more that maroon color and this is pink. For us, when we're looking, you can always tell, we always have our legends here. So as you get the maroon color, that's more towards that less concerning wind speed. You're getting the pinks towards that white. That's where it becomes a bigger issue. So long story short, more likely for us to get damage from this severe thunderstorm warning than the strong storm that we have down into Stark County pushing towards Alliance. With that said, all of these storms are packing a punch because of the heavy rain and all of the lightning. So much lightning. Has it dropped at all? Let's see. A little. Before it was at 2,600. Now we're at 24. Great. I know. Mallory, I'm going to clip this screenshot, send it to my bosses. We need a camera down in Canton because we do not. I wish we had cameras all over because cameras are so helpful sometimes telling the story, especially in the winter. One thing we do have a lot of times that we'll use in the winter is all the different ODOT cameras, but for News 5, in terms of our cameras that we have access to, we don't have one, that I'm aware of at least, in Canton, but it would be awesome to have one. Oh, that is not what I wanted to click. Let's see. I'm going to scroll down because I'm sorry, I missed a lot of comments. Sometimes I get distracted by the radar. So I am waiting for them to issue the next severe thunderstorm warning. I'm just going to go ahead and say that we're going to get another severe thunderstorm warning for Ashtabula County. The worst of this storm moving over Montville, Thompson right now, and it's going to continue to head between Orwell and Jefferson. So this section is going to get hit the hardest with the severe thunderstorm warning that's just to the east of you at this moment. But it's actually strengthening, it's not weakening. Elsewhere, the storms are weakening. which is great news. But for Geauga County, and so yeah, the worst of the winds have crossed now Lake County into Geauga, and then it's going to continue towards Ashtabula. Some small hail still, so let's see. Heavy rain in Painesville and lightning, absolutely. Oh, Karen, your dog is so cute. What's your dog's name? And my own dog in Lake County does not like the big boom booms, from fireworks to thunderstorms. Not a lover. And right now, Lake County still has all of that lightning, all of that heavy rain. I mean, even on the section that I'm not as concerned about anymore, from Cleveland, points west, down through Medina County, into even Akron, you're getting a second wave in Summit County of some of these thunderstorms. And while the winds aren't overly impressive, there is still so much lightning, and there's still really heavy rain too. Yeah, all of these little pockets. So once again, legend always helping us here of what we're looking at. So when we're looking at the rainfall rates, when you're seeing these spikes of pink, that's where we're talking about heavy rainfall, torrential downpours. And the National Weather Service agrees with me about the severe threat continuing into Ashtabula, nearly the entire county of Ashtabula included until 10:30 at night. And so I bet it goes a little bit faster. Same thing how I mentioned, I'm not 100% sure when I said it, but I know it was during this Facebook Live. A lot of times that the warning will be a little bit wider than it needs to be, just in case, because storms have a mind of their own. We can track them, we can keep a close eye on them, and we have a general idea of where they're going to go, but sometimes they'll pull in different directions than what we originally thought. So a lot of times they'll go a little bit wider, and also a lot of times the National Weather Service will do a warning longer than necessary because these storms are moving at 40 miles an hour, the only ones that have been fast. With that said, it's also bringing the strongest winds. So let's do a little track here. Ashtabula County, you are my concern at this moment. It's of course impacting Lake County, Geauga as I speak, but if you're just joining us because you've got the severe thunderstorm warning for Ashtabula County, these storms are headed your way, and they are moving a little bit faster, which is good news because they don't stay as long, but with that, it does bring some of those stronger winds. So hitting Montville as I speak. Trumbull, it's basically on top of you too. This is not the time to get outside because you're probably already hearing the thunder and the lightning, and it's going to be moving a little bit faster. Rock Creek, 5:54, so about 10 minutes for you. Jefferson, more like 15. Roaming Shores, 10 o'clock. Still, the lightning is wild. Let's check in on our friends down in Barberton. So beyond the lightning, which is insane, inside this flash flood warning, we're getting another batch of some heavy rain. Not the entire section that was hit very hard, but the northern portions of this flash flood warning. So from Loyal Oak up to about Copley, that's where there's Maple Valley, some really heavy rain, and that's going to include Akron too, that you're getting hit again with really heavy rainfall. You already had one batch of the heavy rain, the thunderstorms, and now you're getting hit with additional rounds of heavy rain, which is not cool. Westlake still getting hammered by heavy rain, Bay Village, but the winds have come down. The heavy rain is still there. There's still wind gusts of 40 miles per hour in the vicinity near the airport, but the strongest winds, they're all over into Ashtabula at this point, pushing through Geauga County and into Ashtabula. It's right around the county line there. From Montville through Thompson, that's where we have the strongest winds, over 60 miles per hour, I would say. Penny-sized hail moving east at 40. So not much has changed beyond the fact that there is strong winds that could be exceeding 60 miles per hour, maybe up to 65. It started a couple little spots, and it's gotten a little larger, so a bigger swath of where we could see damaging storms. Not much change in that update. Light show, 100%. The lightning will probably, like I said, I don't know if your feed's like mine, but it is going to be filled. I wonder if I even just open Instagram now, I could probably already see. Oh, one of my neighbors is watching. Hi, Noelle. Thank you for watching. So yeah, it's lost my train of thought. I don't know what I pulled my phone up for. Cool. I got distracted. Let's see. News 5 Cleveland. My pick won't send. Says to send only as one big pick. Shoot. Did you try via email? I'm assuming. Because we would love to see your pictures. Doxing my neighbor. I didn't throw out a last name, but Noelle is very sweet. Yeah, so National Weather Service is inside their chat basically saying very similar notions to me that this is our concern right here in terms of getting damaging storms. There's going to be the greatest threat right now from southern, well, it's out of Lake County really now. So the southern section of Ashtabula, so roaming shores, Rome, Orwell, to about Jefferson. These are where we're going to see the worst of the storms. Let's check it out one more time for you. We were able to drop the warning for most of Lake County. This warning that is in effect until 10:30. While I would say for Paynesville areas like Geneva, the worst has passed. And frankly, the worst has already been kind of south of you, but it is going to continue then to impact roaming shores, Rome, and Dover potentially. If it holds together, which these storms have had a mind of their own, like I said. So I'm going to just do this section of the storm. So we're sitting at 9:48. Roaming shores 9:55. So you have about 5 minutes. I always like to shave a couple minutes off of it. Cherry Valley at 10:07 and Dorset 10:07. So in the next 20-25 minutes, and that's at that point, while this warning is until 10:30, I would say the worst of these winds are out of Ashtabula by about 10:20. So for the next 30 minutes, let's hunker down. If you live inside the orange box in Ashtabula, you are our only severe thunderstorm warning. There's still a strong storm down in Stark County. Alliance getting hit with some stronger winds. I love that when I look up and I'm literally blocking all the information. Lexington, Maximo. I said it earlier, there's always a city or two that when I zoom in I've never heard of. And that's where you're seeing some of the strongest winds at this moment, but it's not likely to cause as much damage. It's certainly packing a punch, the lightning alone packing a punch. Then we have more rain where we have a flash flood warning for Summit County, and then there's a flood advisory for northern Lorain County. The difference really is just how much rain fell. So flooding is possible in both, more likely in Summit County because areas that picked up 2 inches of rain in about 45 minutes. Lorain, you got a ton of rain too. It was a little bit more prolonged, but flooding is still possible in both communities. Oh no. Maria said the winds blew away my pool floaties. I'm not surprised because they're strong winds. And even, because they're inflatables, they can blow around pretty easily here. And we've had some wind reports here of over 60 miles an hour. So we've gotten reports in Lorain County of healthy trees getting knocked down onto businesses, onto, I believe, a residential space too, so somebody's home, which is just never ideal. If I pop on, see if we've gotten any. Oh yeah, they're showing up here already. $60-mile-an-hour winds in Amherst. Thunderstorm damage in Lorain. It's not specific. And then Bracknell got a wind gust of 41. So there's that 20-mile-an-hour difference in terms of wind speeds is pretty substantial. Severe thunderstorm warnings are issued when you have the risk of tornadoes. You're always going to get the severe thunderstorm warning. If there's a risk for tornadoes, severe thunderstorm warning or a tornado warning. If there's hail, over 1 inch, severe thunderstorm warning. And then for wind speeds, over 58 miles per hour. So there's a reason for that, and it's because that when you have wind gusts of 60 miles per hour, you see more damage. And that's my concern as these storms continue to push into Ashtabula County, that we'll see, because these are some of the strongest winds I've seen, truthfully. I like that update. Do you see that slight difference? So it was very tight right here, this whole little area lit up in pink. And then this latest scan, it's just becoming a little bit more diffuse, so that's good news. There's still 60-mile-an-hour winds, though. Let's check lightning again. Has it decreased? Not really. Still over 2,000 lightning strikes, which is so wild. Hi. It's our cleaning crew that's here. We appreciate them. All right. Lakewood has had enough rainbows. Oh, because of Pride Parade? Thunder is shaking my house. I believe it. There's just so much. There's so much lightning. At one point, it was almost 3,000 lightning strikes. So that's the good news, is that there is a slight decrease, but there's still a lot. Thunder much louder in Willoughby. What's so interesting about that is that the worst of the storms have kind of passed Willoughby, but I believe you when you say that there's some really, and sometimes it can just be that one lightning strike, right, that causes the huge thunder. And that's, I mean, when we're getting thunder, it's because of the response to the lightning that's happening. So sometimes it's just that right position of that lightning strike, that even though the worst of the winds is past you, you have a lightning strike that's just really close to your house, and it has that boom feeling. When I worked in Louisville, Kentucky, the one time we were tracking severe storms, very similar to this, and I mean, it was so much lightning. And just like our weather center here, I was working at WDRB, and there's all these computers, and all of a sudden they started to turn yellow, and I didn't know why. And this all happened within a 5-10 second span. So they all started to turn yellow, and then our building was hit. The power of lightning, and I was in a safe building. I couldn't imagine when you're standing outside, and that's why we tell everybody when thunder roars, get indoors, because it is so intense. And I know that probably this evening you experienced it with the house shaking because of all of the lightning. Well, thank you, Nancy. I appreciate that. No rain in South Euclid. It's so funny because the storms that are moving through Lake County and Ashtabula, these came off of the water. And then you have your original line of storms that's thankfully weakening. With that said, you still have heavy rain and lots of lightning, and these are the slowest storms ever. Not the slowest, I'm sure there's been slower, but some of the slowest. 20, 25 mile an hour, so that's why it's moving so slow. So for South Euclid, is that what you said? Yeah, South Euclid, you're just starting to see some of the rain. You kind of been gapped so far with the heaviest stuff, but there is still more rain. Probably at this point, by the 11 o'clock news, you'll be getting some of that heavier rain because it's moving through Cleveland at this point with those heavier downpours continuing. What I'm encouraged about with the rest of the storms, with the exception of this one in Ashtabula, is that the wind gusts have come down. So in terms of getting damage, not as likely. Impactful? Absolutely. And that continues all the way down into Brewster. There's even a little thunderstorm there. Most of our southern communities, though, haven't seen as much, but not to leave you out, because there's probably lightning. I wouldn't be surprised. Not as much, but from Brewster, so southern portions of Stark County into Tuscarawas, these are also starting to roll through. Shouldn't be severe. We'll watch it, though, of course. So Joseph said, I usually read a warning stated, move indoors immediately. Lightning is nature's #1 killer. If you hear thunder, you are capable of being struck by lightning. 100%. every time there's a lot of, I remember as a little kid, before I had my meteorology degree, there was these rumors about heat lightning. No such thing, doesn't exist. And any lightning is dangerous. When you can see lightning and you don't hear it, that means that you're just seeing a thunderstorm that's really far away. And once you can start to hear the thunder, that means that you are close enough to be struck. There have been reports of people being 30 miles away from a thunderstorm and still getting struck by lightning. So the worst of the storm, I should say. So they can, the energy from them can exceed much farther than what their parent thunderstorm comes from. So it's incredibly dangerous. Very much, thank you so much for keeping us informed. Absolutely, Francis. In Clarendon, just east of Chardon, the worst passed by. Totally agree. A perfect summation of the storms for Chardon. The worst has passed through Chardon at this point. Oh, and I'm so encouraged by this too. This is great. As they continue to progress into Ashtabula County, the winds have come down a little, probably just shy of 60 miles per hour. Still can cause damage, still an incredibly dangerous storm. But from this section from Trumbull to Chardon, that's where you really had the strongest winds, that area of pink right here. But when we watch that, in the last 15 minutes, it's weakening, which is awesome to see. So probably just maybe more like 50-mile-an-hour winds now moving through Jefferson, Rome, Roaming Shores. Still super heavy rain. Oh, actually not the heaviest rain I've seen today. Kind of pleasantly surprised for Roaming Shores. There's still some downpours in there, but truthfully, where the strongest or the heaviest rainfall is not where the strongest winds are. So that's from Austinburg, Saybrook. Saybrook, I will always think of you, and I will think of 63 inches of snow whenever I see your city name from last winter. But you're getting some heavy rain too right now. But the strongest winds more to the south, which happens sometimes. When we talk about all modes of severe weather being possible, this is a perfect scenario where even there have been brief little times where I'm watching the radar and it's trying to rotate, and thankfully we didn't get any tornado warnings and there wasn't anything showing up on the radar that was super concerning for it to become a tornado. It's been more of the straight line winds. We've had reports of hail and also that heavy rain. So much rain. If I clear this out, the worst of it in Summit County, Barberton, Boyle Oak, that's where there were reports of 2 inches in about 45 minutes. And then elsewhere, any of these green spots, that's where you're over an inch of rain. And so we have a flood advisory until 12:30 for northern Lorain County. It's bad again in East Lake. Let's check those winds. Well, that is because you're getting, as I mentioned, the storm that's moving through Ashtabula, that came off of the lake. So it was racing ahead of the thunderstorms that have been ongoing for our western communities. And so now it's like a 1-2 punch. You got the first wave in Lake County, Euclid, Wickliffe, East Lake, Chardon. Then you're going to get this second wave, likely not as strong, but still you'll get some gusty winds. You'll still get some heavy rain, and you'll still get the lightning. And this is when we call something called training. Training is basically, you can think of it like a railroad track. Trains continue to go down the railroad track again and again and again. Same thing happens when you get repeated rounds of heavy rain, and sometimes they can back build. So that's kind of what happened in the Barberton area, and where we're still seeing some of that heavy rain. Thankfully, it's a bit drier to the west here, so Barberton, Summit County is going to get a break here in the next 20-30 minutes. But with that said, areas that have already seen that first wave of storms in Lake County, now you're getting the original storms that are just such slow pokes that they're now making their way to the east siders. So 2 waves here. Firing back up in Willoughby Hills. So everybody kind of in Lake County experiencing a very similar sentiment here, that you got your first wave of storms pushed through. Thankfully, again, firing up in terms of lightning, in terms of the heavy rain, but the winds, correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm seeing on the radar, because the ground truth is always going to be more accurate than what our radar shows. But in terms of what I'm seeing on the radar, there's little pockets here where there's still some strong winds. Let's make sure these aren't getting stronger. A little bit. Darn it. Yeah, they're stronger for Cuyahoga Falls, Richfield, Brecksville, Independence. Still probably, let's do a little check. So yeah, probably not enough to get warnings, but there is a little bit of, it's trying to fire back up. Knock it off. Same thing around, I feel so bad for this area. Granger, Summit County, Barberton, Copley, Akron, all have been hit with repeated rounds of heavy rain. Now that training comes into play, and there's still some strong wind gusts in there too. But thankfully, like I said, kind of on the edge, which is great news. What's happening out west? Okay, this is good. Happy to see this. Getting a trim of severe thunderstorm warnings. Okay. Love it. So we just have to get through these storms, basically. Long and short of it, there will likely be some more downpours overnight. If anyone's curious about tomorrow, let's just keep an eye on this storm real quick. This continues to come down a little bit, still a strong, dangerous storm at 10:02, crossing from the eastern half now, basically all of Ashtabula County, seeing those strong winds, frequent lightning, heavy rain, and the worst of the winds have come down a little bit, but there's still 60-mile-an-hour winds packed within the storm, and most notably the southern half of the storm, but the heavy rain threat a bit higher in the northern half of this storm. North of Jefferson into Ashtabula along I-90 there, torrential downpours. Then you get to Jefferson Point South, and that's where you have the worst of the winds. Still some really heavy rainfall too, from Bath to Richfield, Brandywine, Independence, Cuyahoga Falls, all seeing still very, very hefty rainfall amounts. Moving out of Stark County, which is good. Clearing our viewing area then out of Portage. Let's see the strongest winds here. Yeah, it's basically all now moving into Mahoning County, or Columbiana, excuse me. Joseph, what about the tornado that came down a few years ago? It was really bad, tore up a lot of trees. I missed a comment. This is wild weather. I totally believe, yeah, it really is. I mean, just the sheer amount of lightning and the beautiful lightning show Tara said, totally agree. Just dangerous. Crazy storm in East Lake. I'm right on the lake. Let's fire up the lightning again. Yeah, so it's coming right off, as you mentioned, right off the lake there, men are on the lake, right over East Lake Willowick, getting hit pretty hard here with just, even though it only has 10 lightning strikes, I mean, it's in such a tight little space that we're looking at, a few mile range here. And the other thing I wanted to check, lightning has come down a hair for our entire viewing area. At its maximum, I believe it was around like 3,000 lightning strikes. So now it's at 2,200. There's still a lot of lightning, but at least it's trying to weaken a little bit. Look at this little guy. What are you doing? Enough. Where are you moving? So this storm, firing off, it's going to try to impact Avon Lake again. Probably northern sections of Vermilion. Oh, we have a camera in Vermilion. See if I can access that computer. I don't think I can. Shoot. So it would be a good light show, I bet, in Vermilion right now. Well, it's not ideal. It's a tiny storm, but still. Vermilion, Lorraine, Avon Lake, you'll probably get impacted with a second wave. And the problem here is that we have this flood advisory where we already got really heavy rainfall amounts. So adding to that, again, we're aggravating a situation that's already angry with how much rain fell in northern Lorain County. Let's keep a close eye on our Ashtabula storm. Oh, that's great news. It's coming down. Severity is coming down. Love to see it. So the severe thunderstorm warning is continuing for Ashtabula, but we're going to see this get a trim here because Lake County out of the worst, and when I say that, that doesn't mean it's not storming. We know it is. We just talked about it. But the worst of the storms now all into Ashtabula, and it's weakening as it's pushing to the east, which is really good news. So even as it continues into northwest Pennsylvania, probably not having as much fire to it. Thunder getting loud in the Ashtabula area. Can't say it enough. The light show is wild. While we have a little bit of a weakening trend, because I am probably going to wrap up here once the worst of these storms, probably in the next 10 minutes, as these storms, the worst of the storms exit Northeast Ohio, just so I can get ready for the 11 o'clock newscast, which I do encourage. I know a lot of people don't watch traditional TV anymore, but even if you have a Roku or any type of streaming device or even just your phone, you can download our News 5 weather app. That's a great way for a variety of reasons because it will tell you here, for example, my girl Mercy, who's working at the digital desk, while I'm here streaming, she's keeping an eye on the rest of our website, and she does these push alerts. So we did get, she just pushed 17 minutes ago, the severe thunderstorm warning for Ashtabula County. And so I always encourage you to have multiple ways. All the other channels too, go ahead. But there's always, it's just multiple ways to get those warnings to let you know that there's that threat of storms coming through, but you can also watch our newscast live there too. So a little plug for News 5 and the ways in which you can watch us. And I think if you still have bunny ears, I think you can still capture us. But so as I mentioned, we got a trim here for the severe thunderstorm warning for Lake and Geauga counties. So it's only now for Ashtabula. Still have storms out there. I want to be clear that while they're weakening, and that's fantastic news, we still have all of this heavy rain and all of that lightning. It is still just a big light show. The worst of the storms clearing Stark County too. It's kind of fallen apart a little bit there, but they're from Akron all the way to Cleveland. It is just one big lightning strike. So much lightning still. 2,000 lightning strikes. Jared Smith, going to go watch the NBA Finals. I kind of forgot. I wonder how they're, can you tell me, Jared, how they're, because that actually, we might be delayed because of the finals. It's kind of hard to tell at 10 what they're doing. Let's check in case anyone's curious. Any tornadoes? No, you are okay. There are no tornadoes. That's one of the questions. No tornadoes. We haven't had any tornado warnings. Straight line winds cause some damage, absolutely, and they're weakening, and we're seeing tons of lightning and heavy rain. That's going to be our concern for the next hour or two until they completely push through. Oh my goodness. The Spurs are 76-49 versus if anyone cares about the NBA Finals, and they're at halftime. So more than likely we're not going to start at 11 p.m. tonight. So hang out a little bit longer. Be safe, absolutely. Crazy in Cuyahoga Falls right now, nonstop, oh yeah. Kind of the concentration of the most lightning here, almost 1,000 lightning strikes from Parma to about Barberton. I wonder how many times I said Barberton tonight. They have been hit pretty hard, repeated rounds of heavy rain in portions of Summit County, including Akron, but rainfall amounts in Portage like 2 inches in 45 minutes. I mean, just an insane amount of rain. Any tornadoes for the Toledo area? Emily Barker is wondering. So no, there is a severe thunderstorm watch just to the north of Toledo until midnight, but what we're seeing on the current radar is not overly impressive. Let me just make sure before I say something I regret. Yeah, there's just not much left to the west. So Toledo, you should be good. But I meant to show this, I think, a while ago. Of the future radar. So it's lining up pretty well here. You see that by 11 o'clock we're seeing the worst of the rain pushing to the east. So not much by 1 a.m. However, I think that we'll get additional downpours by about sunrise tomorrow. The likelihood of these being severe isn't zero, but it's not overly high either. I think tomorrow we have bookend rain chances, so we'll have some morning downpours like this. So this is at 5 a.m. And then it tries to clear out by about lunchtime or so. And then there's the cold front that's out to the west. The cold front, I'm going to show you, you know what, I'll get ready for my 11 o'clock news while we're hanging out. So I'm going to update this to the latest runs of these computer models. Oh, 0Z not in quite yet. So I'll show you, this is the 18Z, which was updated at like 4 o'clock this afternoon. So what day is it? It's Wednesday. So tomorrow morning we'll have some of those downpours. Then we should have a lot of dry time. You see that? But the cold front is still yet to come. So areas out into the plains, Midwest like Illinois, Indiana, probably going to get hit again with severe weather. This line of storms is racing toward us, but probably after midnight. So in about 24 hours from now, it'll be trying to get into northwestern Ohio. But watch how it kind of falls apart. Not much left. We could get completely gapped by the cold front threats of storms. Bad to the west, kind of falls apart over our viewing area Thursday night and into Friday, and then picks back up into Pennsylvania. So it could be really positive for us, where we don't have to deal with the severe weather threat again. I'm always pro rain, not so pro severe weather. How's Ashtabula? Let's get back. Good call. So the severe thunderstorm warning has now been extended into northwest Pennsylvania, into Erie County. I worked in Erie, Pennsylvania, so northern Crawford County, and that goes until 11:30. So we still have, I mean, so much lightning in Ashtabula. Once again, about 1,000 lightning strikes. I'm going to clear off the lightning so that we can see the hefty, hefty rain, maybe even a little bit of some hail showing up there. And we still have, from Pierpont to Riggs, the threat for over 60-mile-an-hour winds for probably another 10 minutes or so. And then it will be into Pennsylvania. Let's check if anyone else has some strong winds here. This Loyal Oak, right inside that flash flood warning, you have probably 30-mile-per-hour winds. Nothing else totally catching my attention. The strong storm that was in Stark County as it moves into Columbiana, probably more like 30, 40-mile-an-hour winds. So still, this is why we only have the severe thunderstorm warnings right now for Ashtabula and now into Erie, Pennsylvania, because that's where we have the threat for that 60-mile-an-hour winds. Ooh, some big hail showing up near Plymouth. According to our system, some large hail. So that's the darkest that I've seen. Once again, you can always look at the banner here in the legend. It shows what we're watching. So the green's rain. You start to see the threat for hail around the purple. The pink, more likely that it's hail. Once you start to see the black, that's when you can have some larger hail, maybe over an inch in diameter. So Plymouth, once the storm passes, if you did get any storm damage, please let me know. Or just even some larger hail. Because that's where that ground truth is always so important in comparison to what I can see on the radar. What you're seeing in your backyard is always going to be, more accurate than the radar, right? Radar's an awesome tool, but. Oh, okay, these storms. Oh, yes, these storms seem to be incredibly slow moving. Had the same clouds stay over my house for so long. They are. Thankfully, where we've seen the strongest winds has been in Lake County, Geauga, and Ashtabula. That's also where we're now seeing the strongest hail. I like that update. It came down. You don't see that black anymore. They're moving faster. They're moving at about 40 miles per hour. Elsewhere, these storms are moving at like 20. It is so, so, so slow. And then there's spots where you get repeated rounds of that heavy rain. So that's where you have your flash flood warning. And even in Lorain County, where we have a flood advisory, There's another little batch. There's a teeny little storm here. How annoying. Moving over Vermilion into Lorraine, Avon Lake, probably going to get another batch of some of this heavy rain. So I'm not concerned about severe weather, but there's already been a lot of rain there, and we're going to add another slow-moving downpour over it. Plus, as I just mentioned, more downpours as we get into tomorrow morning too. So flooding is a continuing concern. And I'll probably stay on for about 5 more minutes. I'll try to answer a few more questions. Lightning show in Canton. I missed your question. Keep focusing. Rain is heavier in Ashtabula now, totally. And you're right by the lakeshore. Heaviest rain there. Largest hail too. So right over I-90 there, it's and I was just in Conneaut the other day for Big Boy, hanging out there. It was a lovely group of people. You're getting hit hard right now with the heavy rain, the frequent lightning, and some of those gusty winds too. Yeah, from Pierpont, just south of Conneaut, Bushnell, Riggs, North Richmond, basically where we have the strongest winds at this time as they continue into northwest Pennsylvania. Probably about 5 more minutes and it will clear, the strongest winds will clear Ashtabula. But that's not to say we won't see storms, because as noted, the other storm's moving incredibly slow. Chances currently less than 2% according to the National Weather Service. Just expect chances. Joseph, who are you talking about? I know what you're referring to. I just was wondering what the original question was. Oh, I just got like a foot cramp. Okay, here in Springfield Township, down by Akron, 2.66 inches of rain. I totally believe it. It's been really high rainfall totals, especially in the Summit County area, the southern half of Summit County, over 2 inches of rain, creeping towards 3, really high rainfall amounts. Let's see, for Portage County, what is that for? Is it for the wind gusts? Yeah, there's still a few stronger wind gusts here, moving from Akron into Rootstown. It's funny, there's always, I've worked here for 5 years now, and there's always memories I have associated with certain cities. And one of my first cut-ins that I was doing, I kept saying Rootsville instead of Rootstown. I don't know why. It was, my brain was like short-circuiting, so every time I see Rootstown, I always think about that. But there is this special weather statement, which basically means a strong storm threat versus a severe threat, and probably wind gusts of like 30 to 40. Let's see. So the National Weather Service is saying up to 50. So this area from Cuyahoga Falls through Mogador, Randolph, Brimfield, all included, where you could see those wind gusts of 50 miles an hour. So something I'll monitor until 11 o'clock here, especially because the NBA Finals were likely not going to start our 11 o'clock newscast right at 11, but something to be aware of, especially in an area that has already been hit pretty bad with storms today, especially with that heavy rain and all that lightning. Should we be concerned about trees falling or floods in Ashtabula? So trees, absolutely, it's a possibility. That's why we have the severe thunderstorm warning, unfortunately. That basically tells you that there's the threat for damage, more likely threat for damage. Of course, you can get trees down when you don't have a severe thunderstorm warning, but it becomes more of a likelihood. It's not a guarantee or anything. And if it's a strong, healthy tree, normally you need really, really strong winds, but it's certainly a possibility, power outages, et cetera. And then flooding, the good thing about the Ashtabula storm, the first wave, is that it is moving pretty quickly. It's already about to clear Ashtabula. The problem is that there's more rain behind it, and that is very slow moving. The heaviest rain, though, is more so from Solon to about Akron, but you'll still get some heavy rain. I think that in terms of seeing flooding issues, more so for Summit County and Lorraine, that's just where the storms were crawling. They are weakening a little bit. There's not as much juice to work with or ingredients, so that's good news. Is there a reason the storm winds show a whole area of green from Strongsville? So let's look. So that's just because you're really close to the radar site. So why that they're on the wrong side is not typical, but the way that you can always tell is if there's anything concerning showing up on the radar, a way that you can tell, Marcy, is putting it back to regular reflectivity. So thankfully it's not a concerning thing, because generally speaking, when you're going toward the radar site, you see that it's all the green. Now, even before the radar though, you started to see some of this red here. And then on the other side, when you're going away from the radar, usually it's red. Of course, there's always going to be days and times where that's not exactly the rule, but when we're watching for rotating storms, it's not going to look like this, where you have this pocket of green. It's more so, like, I'm not concerned about tornadoes in these sections here, but see how it's kind of a mess and it's tighter? That's what we're always going to be watching for. And the first thing I'm always going to do when I'm looking at the storm winds in terms of seeing threats, first thing is spikes of color. So how we have these brighter reds, there was pink up there earlier, and then when you're on the other side, the western side of the radar, that's when you're going to have those spikes of green. Sometimes it's so strong it comes up as blue. So that's what I'm always going to look for first. And then when it comes to rotating storms, it's really more, it's tighter. If you zoom in and look at all of these, see how you can, there's little boxes almost. So these, they're called gates. And these, when you have a threat for a tornado, those boxes or gates are going to be right next to each other. So you'll have a green one and you'll have a red one smack next to each other, and both of them will be bright. That's what we're looking for when we have the threat for a tornado. Is Amherst going to get hit again? Let me zoom back out. So it's just north of you. I think that you'll miss out. You might hear some thunder and lightning, but there is this tiny little storm that is being silly. You're probably missing it in Amherst. But the problem is that we have this flood advisory that includes Sheffield, Avon Lake, and I do think Sheffield, you'll probably, like Amherst, you might get a little bit more rain, but from Sheffield Lake, Avon Lake, you're likely going to get hit with another batch of some of this heavy rain. And it's, once again, moving kind of slow. I'm having a brain fart, Harley, for Newton Falls. Can you tell me? I do know where it's at. I'm just having a brain fart at this moment. Where about is Newton Falls? I'm going to be mad at myself. It's like a quiz right now. Like, we still have 1,000 people. How's Akron? Akron, you're still getting stormy. I'm sorry. It's been so stormy in Akron. Let's look at the camera. Oh. It's a good lightning show in Akron right now. So much lightning. I keep thinking that eventually the lightning will come down in terms of the numbers. And I mean, it's still over 2,000 lightning strikes for our entire viewing area. It's coming down, but it's very, very slow. The good news is that the worst of the storms have passed through Cleveland. Keeping an eye on this little guy here that's more just aggravating a flooding issue than anything else. And then in terms of the strongest winds for Ashtabula, it's crossing over the state line right now. It's right at the, I call it the Love's exit on 90. Around Kingsville, it always has the cheapest gas, fun fact. If you're driving to Pennsylvania to like Erie or anything, stop there. Because even along the entire route, it's usually going to be your cheapest. So a little fun fact for you. But yeah, I'm not seeing an overly concerning, nothing, it's the same threats basically. We still have the potential for damaging winds, but I think that as the next, by 10:30, we should have the worst of the storms out of Ashtabula, which is great. And then that's our last severe thunderstorm warning. And I am probably going to wrap it up in just a minute here. Just so I can get ready for the newscast. Look at the latest models for tomorrow. I'll show you the 7-day forecast really quick. And I do appreciate, this was one of my longest feeds, and it was, there's always going to be the people that think they're funny and say rude things, but overall it was a really great group of people, and I really do appreciate that, because it's, I enjoy tracking the storms, but sometimes people can get you down, so I do appreciate it. Tomorrow's another hot and humid one, and we could likely see some downpours in the morning. A lot of the afternoon is looking dry again, and what we'll have to watch is the storms to the west. It should be a weakening line of storms, probably coming after midnight, and then for Friday, I think that truthfully, a lot of Friday is going to be dry. We'll put a chance mainly early, but I'm not even convinced that we'll get that. Weekend's looking pretty good, less humid too, so that's awesome. Newton Falls is in Trumbull County. Thank you, Harley. Let's look real quick. I did know that. Sure. Okay, so you're kind of in a section here in Trumbull where you're going to get some of the rain. You're going to get obviously some lightning too. Let's pop the lightning back on. But honestly, it's kind of evading Trumbull County. You'll get some of this rain right now, even in the southern section, moving through Warren and Niles, getting some of that heavy rain too. Let me try to find. So yeah, you'll get some thunderstorms, but I don't think that it's going to be overly severe. So that's good. All right, I think I'm going to wrap up just so I can get ready for the newscast here, but I so appreciate everybody joining me. We're starting to lose a couple people too. We still have about 1,000 people watching, and I do hope that you'll stick around after the NBA Finals. We'll see where these storms are at. It'll probably be about an hour from now, realistically. Well, let's check the score. So yeah, they're in the third. The Spurs are really beating the Knicks, 81-59. So, but realistically, that still puts us behind to get on at 11. So probably more so like 11:30. So I do hope that you join us. The worst of the storms now out of Northeast Ohio. They're starting to weaken here. There's still heavy rain, frequent lightning. I'm going to continue to monitor them. But everybody stay safe here. Tomorrow's another hot and humid day as well. So hope to see you on News 5 at 11, quote unquote, like 11:30. Okay, bye. Thank you.